Good morning, folks. I've been fighting with OBS for the last 20 minutes. I'm not sure why this thing is so fickle. It just does not want to cooperate with me. I don't know why, but either it doesn't want to show my screen or it doesn't want to show an audio, or not show an audio, I guess pick up my audio. So, good morning. Good morning. Today, we have the market opening up just really close to where we settled at here. So, I'll show you. Let's see if I can do an audio check here first. Yep, I hear myself. All right. So the regular trading hours, if you go down here, right now it's on electronic trading hours. So we go to regular trading hours, and this is where we settled previous session, and this is where we opened. So to open at this level here, we have a small little discount gap. So this is the low. So now it's the opening range gap low. And settlement is what I label it until we get the actual open. When it's real close to it, pre-market before 9:30, as I'm watching it, I have this already annotated. So opening range gap high, because this is higher than where we opened up on regular trading session hours. Okay. Ready, so let's go back into electronic trading hours. And initially, I like to see if it makes any attempt to want to grab T back up into here, because he left that really smooth. And he just upset the sell side here. So here's buy side. Because we had a really small gap, I'm not all that excited about the initial morning session. Like, I'm not overly bullish, overly bearish. I'm just indifferent right now. I just want to wait and see what the market gives me. This week, the focus on the lectures, Caleb, is to highlight areas that are going to be problematic. And one of those things is obviously today, where we have a very small minor gap. Okay, and larger gaps that we open up with, they tend to kind of like invite larger volatility and a lot more protraction in the marketplace. And then now we just did this area down here. Got a lot of feedback from Friday's live stream. I appreciate that. A lot of folks never saw someone call the daily high and the daily low and show a $200,000 framework in one trade, but we're just getting started. Hope you had a good weekend. I did. Very good weekend. All right, so now we have worked the sell side here. The market has gapped lower with a lower gap opening. We traded above the opening the opening range gap high, which is previous settlement. So Friday's day session settlement price. That's what this is here. We're working inside of the old new week opening gap on August 25th, 2024. Okay, and what I want to see is, do we have the ability to work one more time taking out this low? Because it was a little shallow doing that. So if I were to kind of like force myself to give you, if I had to anticipate right now what I thought was likely to occur, I think we're going to bang around between new day opening gap of August 21st and the opening range gap low until we discern what it wants to do. So I'm sitting still, I'm relaxing, I'm not worried about trying to be right about what I think it's going to do initially. My tendency is to look at what we have left over here. So these relative equal highs are just really, really, really smooth. Do they need to run up here today? No. Can it do it? Sure. I'd like to get the invitation to outline some kind of framework to get to that level, but focusing on the lecture premise this week is looking for things that are going to be problematic for your trade. In other words, what makes the idea of looking for setups harder, or once you have an opinion, okay, what makes it difficult to hold on to it, and what challenges will you find in doing that? Sticking to a bias or arriving at a bias, okay, that's kind of like one of the primary hurdles for most of you. And my son's no different. And it was the same thing for me when I first started learning how to do this in the 90s. Knowing where it's likely to go. And also trying to push away that impulse to, I got to know right now because the market's trading, so I have to get in there because your fear of missing something. There's no reason for you to fear missing anything because the market's going to trade tomorrow. The market's going to trade on Wednesday and in perpetuity until the markets are no longer available to us. So don't worry about that. We have bigger problems if we can't trade, right? So we've worked the new week opening gap here. I liked how we've done this business in here. And any movement above here, I'm going to watch and see, does it use the new day opening gap on August 21st? So in other words, trade above it, come back down, and then aggressively run into this area up in here. It's really smooth. Now, I was looking at a 2-minute chart over here because you're probably wondering, like, why are you on a 2-minute chart, ICT? Why are you not talking about that? I was looking at the gap right in here. I was studying, do they use this as inversion? Initially they did, but they hammered the consequent encroachment of the new week opening gap of the 25th. And then we have the previous settlement. So it's returned back to that, then dropped down, displaced below the relative equal lows. So sell side's been disturbed. It's all messed up now. And the market's seeking buy side, which it's already done by taking this one here. And this is a little smooth in here. They've already disrupted that. And in here, up to this high, that's where the short-term minor buy-side liquidity is. I'm watching this candle or the next to see if we can trade down into consequent encroachment. Don't look at this opening range gap high thinking that's consequent encroachment because you can see it's different from the low to midpoint between that high. I'm annotating the opening range gap high or previous settlement. So coming down and touching that, if it's bullish, that's something we want to see. Think about what I was outlining when I was showing you opening range gaps. Let me show you what it looks like this. Think about it like the opening is here, previous settlement is here. That's the wrong color, so don't think too much about that orange because I was looking at it as inversion fair value gap, studying it pre-market. And then the opening up to the previous settlement, which is there. Okay, so see 4:14 p.m. at the bottom of the chart, 4:14, and then the opening price here today at 9:30. So that's your regular trading hours. So now if we go over to electronic trading hours, trading above, coming back down into the opening range gap. Because we opened little unchanged. Little unchanged to me is less than 30 to 40 handles. So if it can't even muster a difference between previous day's settlement price and 30 to 40 handles beyond that or away from that at the opening bell at 9:30, I'm right away going to sit on my hands and wait till 10 o'clock. That is one of the things that I want Caleb to do, is discern whether or not there's a lot of excitement, a lot of anticipation. A lot of things have happened over the Middle East, and they're starting to heat up over there. So there's a little bit of trepidation right now in the marketplace. So they're going to be probably very fickle in delivery of price today because they want people's sentiment shown, like they want to see what traders are doing after waiting all weekend long. Now here we are, the bells rang, the gates are open, the horses are off the race. Yeah, and how is everyone going to plunk down their money? How are they going to bet? Are they looking for lower prices? Are they looking for higher prices? I think that initially they've offered some selling here to entice traders to want to do that very thing, sell short. I'm not all that terribly excited about doing that right now. I do think if things heat up in the Middle East and with over in Russia and Ukraine and China and Taiwan, all those things will be catalysts to spur on more excitement in the marketplace. But right now, I'm kind of weighing out what it's wanting to do initially, so I don't want to have a hard opinion. I like an area, which is the buy side. I want to see if it could give some kind of framework to get there, but it's in no hurry to give me a market structure to work within. Back and forth choppiness in here. So the first thing, Caleb, in your rules are the rules of engagement for anticipating a really easy morning session is, are we opening significantly higher or significantly lower than previous settlement? So obviously today, it's Monday. We know that Friday's where we settled. So when we're looking at the previous day settlement price, it's Friday's 4:14 p.m. Eastern Standard Time's price. When we pull up the regular trading hours, toggling that down here, that price is the 4:14 p.m. Friday session, regular trading hours. Now, obviously, it trades for another 46 minutes and then closes for the weekend. If it was not Friday, it would be closing for the day and then reopening an hour later at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So because we had a very small gap, very, very minor gap, that is indicative of a market that's going to be very reluctant to run. And you have to wait, let the market give you more intel. So it helps you control fear and greed, that FOMO, fear of missing something. Every little initial move shouldn't make you feel like I got to be in here. It's doing something. And it gives you a sense of relaxation and not having to be impulsive, which is very, very important as a trader. So if you notice that we have had difficulty and it wasn't easy for it to get to the new day opening gap of the 21st. So it's banging up close to it, but then fails aggressively. So now we're back on the southern end of that opening range gap. So think about that blue box there. It can work back up in. There's a small little volume imbalance right there. Watch that. Because if we can get back up in to retest the opening range gap low, that means the opening price at 930. If it can trade up into that, it might want to go into that little area there if it wants to go lower. But because there is a very, very weak or anemic gap from previous settlement on Friday to where we opened up at, I've already elected, the protocol is I have to wait till 10 o'clock. I want that full 30-minute opening range, not opening range gap, 30 minutes. So 9:30 to 10 o'clock, we're sitting still. There's nothing for you to do. I don't care if there's a fair value gap. I don't care if there's something exciting that appears in the chart. Because we opened very anemically, it's weak. It doesn't have a whole lot of movement. Now, we were initially, earlier on, we had a really nice potential higher gap opening, but they completely erased that. Got real close to this previous settlement by the time we opened at 9:30. Notice that. So one of the things that you're going to combat most is the want to be in some kind of trading. And especially if you're on social media and watching people like me or watching other people talk about what they are doing in the marketplace. If you're watching live streamers that have chats, you can see that other people are chomping at the bit. They're saying, I'm long, I'm short, whatever. And I weigh a lot of sentiment with those types of tools. And I view that as a retail indicator. So watching other people's live streams, seeing their level of excitement, or if they're not all that excitement, if they're not excited about something, and I might see a directional setup. I may see something that forms or forming that is maybe bullish or bearish. And then I see a lot of comments and other live streamers saying, and it's not just that, it's other social media venues where if people that are very chatty, they like to share their opinion. The more I have that is the other side of my perspective, the better I feel about the idea. And right now, because of the technicals, we opened weak. It wasn't that big of a gap. I'm not interested in trying to form a hard opinion right away. And it'll help Caleb. And if all of you are watching, that'll also be a solid foundation to build on using the gap, because they can't hide the gap. Obviously, as soon as at 9:30 we open up, look at the difference between the previous day's settlement price at 4:14. You find that on the lower time frames. But I was using a 2-minute chart here, and I was watching how they were using this gap here to see if we could open up with a higher gap. If we would have opened up here, maybe at this new day opening gap or a little bit higher, I would have looked for the move to drop down into the new week opening gap on the 25th, maybe using consequent encroachment, and then try to get a long up into this buy side here. But they took it away and opened us with a really, really weak discount gap. That means it's a lower gap opening. So because of that, the amount of range, and I had one of the students ask me, what does a 20 handle move look like? So see that price here, 19,732. So all the way up to 7,052 even. That is a 20 handle price move or fluctuation. Okay. And you can see it's not much more than that for the opening range gap. So whenever I see a gap like that, I'm immediately, protocol is sit still, wait till 10 o'clock. Wait for silver bullet, wait for something that's more obvious, wait for the first 30 minutes to get in there. The algorithm is going to do what it's going to do in the first 30 minutes. And if I get into a trade, or if I try to elect a liquidity I want to target, I'll tend to be wrong. And I've seen that over 25 years of using opening range gaps and forcing that. So I just am real comfortable letting them have the first 30 minutes. And if it's a big day that I don't want to be a participant in early on, other traders might be positioned for a better short or long that may be beneficial for them holding for the rest of the day. That's okay. I'm not worried about that. I'm not forcing myself to be right. And if you look at this low over here on the 15-minute time frame, there's sell side resting just below that. So if they want to get real animated, they can take it down there. A lot of feedback, very, very positive feedback, which I appreciate. Thank you for that. So I'll drop back into a 1-minute chart, which is standard for us. So you can see right away, it's a little disorganized this morning. It's not real clean. It's a little sloppy. It has a lot of porous price action in it. That is just like the volume imbalance here. We had a volume imbalance there, which you already offered several times. No real gap in here except for the wick. And all of this spotty delivery taking us down below the initial sell side that would have been to the left of us at the opening bell. Falling short of the new day opening gap high on August 21st. So when I'm looking at price and I know that it's moving and I'm not in a trade, when I was a younger man in my 20s, I used to panic about that because I thought every run was going to be a 100-point run and be a big blast off move. Because just like you, when you learn something new from me, you think that it's going to appear in every next candle because now you're keyed up on it. And I felt that way about everything that I was learning from Larry Williams and his books and his videos. And I thought for sure that, okay, he's my hero. I'm looking for this. Almost got below that low. The pursuit of finding the new toy in the market, so that way I can play with it. I could use it to make money. And one of the biggest things you can do is learn to go slow, really, really slow in the beginning, because you're not going to be able to retain some very valuable insights about how you think. And if you go in there and try to chase making money right away, you're not going to pick up on the clues that tell you that you're about to go on tilt. That means you're going to abandon the trading idea that you went into initially. You'll either over leverage or over trade, do more than what's necessary. And it all stems from not having a plan, not having a process of what to follow. And it needs to be very finite, very specific rules. And the first element to that needs to be, when are you going to do something? Time. Okay, so the market's going to deliver based on time, and you aren't going to execute unless you're in a time period, some little envelope in time, like a macro, the first 30 minutes. I mean, it may have to transpire. A few of you actually mentioned you thought that I was making a mistake, and you were correcting me in the comment section. And while I appreciate your enthusiasm about that, the fair value gap that I was annotating on Friday, it did not displace lower from it. So it's not a reclaimed bearish fair value gap. That's why if you saw the color of it, it was gray, because I wanted to see, does it send price down once it went below initially? It just traded down with wicks. It didn't trade up to it and then displace lower. It went higher, made a higher high, and then I was calling out live that I want to see the bottom of that be used as like a resistance, a premium array, and leave the upper half open. So no, I'm not mistaken. No, you're not correcting me, and I don't mean that to be condescending, but it was a inversion fair value gap because I was anticipating it to do what? I was looking for the market to press up into that event horizon and go into a turtle suit. And I wanted to see it fail at that new day opening gap. Remember I was telling you, I said, I'm not going to go long in here, but I'm waiting for it to press up into it. I said, if it's good, if it's really bullish, it will go up and hit that new day opening gap. But we were pressing into that balanced price range, which is going to be more formidable. And when the market broke below that gap, I outlined it real time to you all that it should act as an inversion fair value gap. So no, I wasn't mistaken, but there's logic behind it. This is why I said anybody that talks about inversion fair value gaps or fair value gaps at all, every gap with 3 candles does not make it a fair value gap in the context that you think it is. You don't have all the other tools and resources and experience of reading what the narrative and price action is. Go back and watch Friday's live stream again, okay? And you'll hear there's a lot of things going on with the least amount of speaking. I've already talked more today than I did Friday's whole session. I'm watching the volume imbalance here. We've already had one tap into it there. There's a second one. Now, when you go through each one of these live streams with me, whether you're watching it rather live or if you're watching it later on, I want you to really spend a lot of time writing in your journal when you're taking screenshots that compare the differences of the first 30 minutes of trading with every other day. And when I really make a big glowing remark and start gushing about how pretty and clean price is versus days where it's spotty, a little disorganized. Those are real key things to annotate in your journal because those are the things that's going to be much more paramount for you as a day trader. We just swept that low here on the 50-minute time frame. And we traded inside of an old buy sign of balance, sell sign of deficiency, which is right here. Okay. So I'm still working with one laptop. I don't have anything in front of me. I don't have any other screens. I promise, in Jesus' name, I'm not looking at I'm literally in my bedroom right now. So my office is upstairs. I have not used that one time since I started doing the 2024 mentorship because I'm trying to help the individuals that have one device, one monitor, because they think that, it only works because I have so many monitors. And that's not true. It's just, I like to look at a very immersive perspective on the marketplace. And I'm also looking at other markets sometimes when I'm using all my screens. So I'm not leaning on that stuff initially for you, Caleb, because you're supposed to be watching price action to get a feel for how price delivers around time. So it's not about picking the right decisions of getting in the right fair value gap and where your stop loss needs to be perfect and short, not have a lot of risk. All those things are later. The first thing is you have to submit to this process of reading price, being in front of the charts, retaining the information as it's being presented. Every single candle, what is it doing? How is it behaving? So I'm watching this wick here. If it can overtake consequent encroachment of that and then come back down, and if it starts showing any kind of support there, that'd be interesting to see get back to the opening range gap low. Otherwise, this is a premium right, half of that wick. If you can go up and touch it, or if it fails to even go there and starts to break lower, that's indicating it's very, very weak. Again, we're not even in 10 o'clock yet, so I'm not interested in framing any trades at all. These are all things that you're observing, Caleb. You're trying to make references to these. As you watch price, you want to screenshot these things. Every time I point to something, I'm saying I'm watching this. That's a keyword. I may not say the term, screenshot it as a prompt because I'm trying to talk about something while price is ticking and booking price. But anytime I make a special reference to something, okay, if you go back and you watch the recording and you hear me do that, that is a time for you to screenshot it. And then you annotate what your observations are and what actually happened afterwards. And by doing that, it provides you a way of referencing, logging, and building a understanding of what these things will do in the future when you're watching price action. For instance, like immediate rebalances, okay, where you have a run in price. Perfect example. We have the market stop with a low right here. Then we have a big candle that went lower than the previous candle's low. Okay, it doesn't matter where we're going next. Okay, what I'm saying is things that key up on your attention, that you're saying, okay, there's something going on here. I'm monitoring this. The very next candle is a large candle down, and then we have this candle open and it trades all the way back up and touches the previous candle's low. So all of this down candle, the black candle here, that range is completely redelivered with buy side. So if we're looking at it like this, make it a little bit wider. The separation between this candle's low here and then the big long black candle that goes down, if this would have opened here and traded lower, this would have been a fair value gap. But it opens and trades all the way back up and touches that. That is called immediate rebalance. If it does that when you're bearish, that's one of the best indications that you are entering at if you want to trade imbalances where it completely closes down. I just found a guy on the internet on YouTube trying to teach imbalances and fair value gaps and saying that fair value gaps are a renaming of an imbalance. No, it's actually a very specific signature where it is not filling in. I don't want to see it fill in. That is the superior form of trading price action. If you're going to look for these inefficiencies, the highest order of trading them is you want to see them not close in. And I've proven this in live sessions with real trades, with real money. So if we're looking at the price delivering back up to that level there, that mechanism right there, it matters not if it goes higher or lower. What I'm saying is this right now, and when it does that, as soon as it touches that candle's low on this candle, it delivered down, and the next candle opens and it rolls right back over top of all of the down move from this candle's low right there to where we opened. All of this has been redelivered back to that price. So this is efficient. If it's bearish, that's really strong. Or if you're in a trade and it starts creating these types of things and it goes right back up, then you can say, all right, I expect it to trade aggressively lower. It's done what it needs to do to rebalance, reprice, and it need to do it real quick and sudden. It's kind of like showing a hand of a winning card hand in poker. If you're a partner that you're at the table with and they flash their hand to you and they're sitting with a full house, 4 aces and a king spade, like it's going to be hard to beat that, right? So that's what the algorithm's doing. It's kind of like tipping its hand saying, I'm getting ready to do something really stunning, one directional, and an immediate rebalance is one of the purest forms of reading it in price action. So when you see that, it kind of like promotes large range, it promotes speed, it gives you a lot of indication that the market wants to behave a certain way and a certain characteristic. And you can see it happening here, by the way. So it did it there, and boom, we took out the low. That in itself might be your model. This guy's like the Candyman. He's got all this stuff all the time, just boom, and he says it and it happens in real time. What else do you want? What else do you need? I got lots of stuff. I got stuff that you're going to fall in love with that you didn't even think you knew you wanted. Alrighty, let's go. And we have the complete closure of this buy side imbalance, sell side inefficiency. So I want to annotate that so you can see where we're at in relationship to the 1 minute chart. And we'll do this. We'll do a weird little color like that. And we'll extend it to the right. You can see how we are behaving like that. So look over here in the 15-minute time frame. It's this big up close candle. The previous candle's high, which is this one right there. That's the problem with having all these different charts. It's going to aggravate me when I'm trying to look at certain things. And it didn't quite get down to that, but that's enough. So your model might be, let's say you're bearish and you feel comfortable being short. You want to look for sell side. Wonderful. One of the strongest indications of you're about to see a price run that's one direction, and it's going to be nice, quick, sudden, big candles. As we were outlining here, big down close candle, immediate rebalance right there. Now, what happens if this candle that opens right here after this big down close candle, when that forms, what happens if the next one doesn't go right back to that candle's low right there? It's valid if it does it on the next candle, but after that, it's not. So immediate rebalance is this single candle that creates a big range lower and a lower close. The candle must be larger. Larger than what? Well, look at all the ranges. Once this has formed, this stands out against all the other previous ranges, right? It works on all time frames. So if you're a very short-term scalper, or if you're in a trade and you're waiting for price to give you that last little bit of movement, and you get a candle like this, if you were short and you want to get short or add a pyramid, as soon as you anticipate this candle closing, as soon as it closes, watch where we open on the next one. Anticipate, feel comfortable with it running right back up to that candle's low. If you're short already from some higher place, this is not a reversal, but you'll see so many people online that are sharing their observations live, or if they'll share their sentiment about what the market has just done. They'll be trying to influence live streamers that are actually taking the time to trade in front of other people. The people in the chat will say, oh, it's reversing because it's done something like this. Because they've read Steve Nielsen's books, or they have read some other kind of retail logic, and they think, okay, this is going to reverse now. The only thing it's doing is exactly what you want to see it do when you're bearish. You want to see it run right back up, rebalance that. And if it didn't do it on this candle, the next candle, if it went and touched it, then I would expect speed and delivery to the downside. Okay, so when I'm prompting you in the live stream and I'm making specific reference to watch this inefficiency, watch this fair value gap, pay attention to this wick, those are prompts. That's me prompting you, Caleb, to this is what I want to go back in and look at what it did later on at the end of the day, or at the end of the session. Not for you, it's for the end of the session. So by 11 o'clock or something to that effect. All right, so we're in 5 minutes into the 10 o'clock hour. So we've had 35 minutes or so of opening range. We could not get all the way down to this run here on the 15-minute buy side and balance, sell side efficiency. So we took out relative equal lows, this low. I gotta make sure I slow down. That way you can see what I'm pointing to. I make this mistake all the time. This low and this low, upper left-hand corner chart. So those two are relative equal lows. We have traded down through that, but we didn't close in the entirety of that buy side and balance, sell side efficiency, which is this candle right there, this big 15-minute candle. So that is seen with this little area down here. So let's say we're anticipating a turn in the marketplace. How can you study that? Well, we have an indication that it couldn't get all the way down to the buy side and balance, sell side inefficiencies low on the 15-minute time frame. We are seeing an initial run back to, but look where the bodies are. So it hasn't proven anything yet. Even though we had a little wick here, the bodies are saying, no, it's not there yet. So sit still, relax. Don't try to catch the turn. Don't try to catch the bottom. Don't try to pick the bottom. It's, you know what they say, if you try to pick your bottom, you're going to get stinky fingers. So now watch the wick here. That's consequent encroachment right there at that 19,701. So I just leaned over. He said, "I should just say get stinky fingers." This guy and his jokes. So far, we're only working with the rejection block, which is the lowest down closed candle price, closing price. It swept that here, but we're still inside that 15-minute discount buy side of balance, sell side efficiency. Not trying to pick the bottom, not trying to pick the top. We're not in any position right now. We're just watching and observing price. Real relaxed, taking in information. If there's going to be something obvious, it'll be obvious. Right now, it's not. There's nothing in here that I would have expected my son to see and capitalize on. So that's the main takeaway from this, Caleb, is while you're watching this, you might be looking and saying, man, I don't see anything. And that's normal. That's exactly what I want you to have, that perspective, because nothing is there yet for your model. Having a model, having a context, if you will, of what you're watching price for, if it's not in the price action, if the thing that you're trying to capitalize on, trade on, frame a setup around, if it's not obvious in price action, why are you worrying? It's just indicating you're impatient. You're fearing a missed move that someone else is going to probably come back later on and say, this is what I did. And maybe they did do it. Most of the time, they probably didn't. All right, so we finally snapped through the 15-minute time frame, buy side balance, sell side efficiency. So now this inefficiency that we just traded through offer the opportunity for this to act as an inversion fair value gap. So now we can watch the lower end of this here. So that would look like this. We can take that's the midpoint line, that level right here. So this level here is half of this shaded area. If it wants to return back in, it's bearish as long as it does not go back above that midpoint. It can wick to it and through it, but it's better if it just trades back up into here and falls from that, not return to the upper half of it. Scrunch this up. You can see where we have a lot of the new day opening gap and new week opening gap. That's a big, big draw because it's layered. They're all nested together. We have that new day opening gap from the 23rd, and we have the 18th of August new week opening gap. So a real nice setup would be something like watching it trade up into that 15-minute fair value gap that we traded finally through. And notice when I was telling you we were back here, I said, nothing's happened yet. You can't try to pick the bottom yet. Anybody that tried to capture the long here, they got stinky fingers now. You pick your bottom, you're going to get shit on your hands, basically. So you have the body's telling you, no, we have not turned around yet. What is it respecting? The fair value gap on that 15-minute time frame that I've been drawing your attention to. So while we did have that immediate rebalance here and it rolled down, it came right back up to the high end of that 15-minute fair value gap, but did not close out of it. The bodies are saying, watch me, hello, neon sign, nothing's happened yet. Everything is still in motion going lower. So if that's the case, what are you looking for? What's below this 15-minute fair value gap? Well, we can have the new week opening gap and new day opening gap. These levels on here, like I said last Friday, they're like a big black hole when they're nested together like that. Like it's such a huge influence on drawing price to them. So like I said, it would have been nice for it to offer a return back into that 15-minute fair value gap or get into this SIBI here between this candle's high and that candle's low, get up to that halfway point there. Say it fails to even touch that. Well, then that means it never would touch this. And then it will probably aggressively run down with large ranges and very sudden, quick delivery. And then you have the sell side below here on that low, which is 591 3/4. So that's an old low right here. Okay, you can see that price in the upper left-hand corner when I put the cursor just underneath it. 19,591.75. There's a mosquito in here. I'm trying to let it out the door. It's flying everywhere but the door that's wide open. When I get to heaven, I'm going to ask God, why did he create mosquitoes? Flying syringes. It's a male. They don't bite, but still I don't want them in my room. That's something that would have been edited out of a recorded video, by the way. But we're live, so it needs to be left in here, I guess. So far it's respecting the lower level of this wick here. So this right here. See that? And I can tell you, and I said it last week, these lectures that I give you this week are going to be the least loved, liked, or appreciated lessons. But when you go out and you try to use this information and you don't study with the things I'm talking about in these, you're going to have problems that are going to arise, and you're not going to be able to pull the information out with successful trades or ideas, or you're going to rush to try to make money before you really understand how to use the stuff. And later on, you're going to come back, later on, probably months, years later, because you're going to try other stuff, and you're not going to do well with that. And you're going to think that, well, let me just see what I do if I go back and listen to it. And you're going to think, wow, he said these things, and I fell victim to all that stuff. If I just would have listened to those lectures, focused on slowing down, demand that price is giving you something that's obvious. Obviously, you don't have the information that you should have as a profitable trader or someone that's consistently able to do it correctly. So when I'm making annotations or talking about them, as we were talking about here with the immediate rebalance, and then when it was trading just outside of that, I told you, look, nothing's happened yet. It hasn't turned. We're not trying to pick the bottom yet. And this is telling you that we have proven with the bodies, it's telling you the narrative that nothing has changed. So the momentum and the delivery of price is lower. So all it's doing is returning to a premium level, which is the high of that 15-minute fair value gap, which we want to see it behave as an inversion fair value gap. It's showing that signs here, but when we outlined this larger discount array being in the chart, when we brought it up like this is a target, but if you would have waited for it to trade to that level, that could be a model for you. But this right here is not indicating that we were turning us. Go back and listen to the stream. But those are the things that you have to watch, and they're problematic. So if you're looking for setups, if you ignore what price is doing, and you're not taking in the intel that it's providing to you, information that's going to be helpful to you, or canceling. If it nullifies any interest in the marketplace, you have to be thankful that you can take that out of price action and not look at it, well, I missed a move. I hate that I missed a move. It's so frustrating. Why? If you're brand new and you're trying to learn how to do this, it's normal for you to feel like it's not easy. It's normal for you to feel like it's never going to happen for you. That's a normal thing when you're trying to say, I should already be trading with real money profitably. Sure. I mean, if someone picks up a golf club, me, because I hate golf, it would be unrealistic for me to say, I'm going to pick up a golf club and be able to putt or drive a golf ball like Tiger Woods, because I've watched Tiger Woods so many times on TV in the highlight reel. So therefore, I should know how to do what he does and be able to do the same thing because I've watched him do it so many times. And that's unfortunately the same misconception that a lot of students have because they've watched lots of ICT videos, and that's not the same thing as watching real time price action and looking for the things that I teach as PD arrays, signatures and price, how the characteristic of that price run is indicative of a sustained run, or is it just reaching for the next inefficiency or liquidity to make a reversal? There's a lot of things that you have to discern. And in the natural progression of going through that, watching price and not rushing yourself to know something, you're learning every single time you're in front of charts. If you're watching price action with me live, or you're watching price without me, but you're just watching price, as long as you are managing your expectations and you're not trying to force the idea of I need to be in a trade. I need to be in a trade, so therefore the outcome is the make it or break it or success or failure. That's the grading of it. And if you're trying to grade yourself on that premise, you're going to be very hard to encourage to keep going forward. And it's not just my material. That mindset usually is adopted to whatever else they go and chase. So whatever method or whatever school of thought for trading they sit down in front of and they try to trade with, they're going to fail at that too because they first have to have the proper mindset. And that's what I'm trying to do with you, Caleb, is relax you, remind you that you're not expected to trade like me. You're not expected to know every little fluctuation and be able to determine what it's going to do and how it's going to behave. That's not realistic. What is your priority right now? Is number one, to move slow. Let anything that becomes important to you manifest itself. It's gotta show itself in the chart and say, okay, I see this and this is causing me a concern or question and I'm curious, or I have a doubt about something being there that maybe I should be looking at. That's all normal. And you write those questions down in your journal. And then when we sit down with each other on Saturdays, you'll be able to tell me this is what it is. This is what's on my mind right now. And I'll tell you, well, this is what you do with this question or concern, or I'll answer it for you. Or I'll tell you that's not even something that you should be worrying about because there's going to be a lot of that stuff in the beginning. Worrying about the things that are not important in the beginning is a huge time waster. And while I do have a lot of content and my videos tend to be long, it's meant to save you years of doing stuff that's not fruitful versus listening to a lecture. And if you were in college, say I was a college professor and I wasn't teaching trading, I was teaching, economics, or I was teaching psychology, you'd have to hear me drone on and on and on. So why are you trying to shortcut it all? You're here to learn it. You're here to try to get a PhD in price action. So every time you sit down with me, that's what we're doing. We're focusing on the things that are going to be very important things that you don't think are important right now. But when you start watching your trades in the future, like for instance, you may have, when we're looking like this, I guarantee you somebody out there was seeing this low, and this low, and they're thinking, okay, that's a 3 drives pattern. And then they saw this big run like this. I say big, but it's not really. But it was sudden run right up in here. And then when this candle was bullish, it looked like it was a reversal to them. And they probably already had a trade being recorded so they can go on social media and say, I did this against ICT. And they're doing all the wrong things too. They're trying to look right instead of staying here and learning how to read price action correctly. But I told you, the bodies were telling you nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. And the only thing we've done is we've left this small little portion open down here on the 15-minute time frame. And we want to see that shaded area become an inversion fair value gap. So that means you use the high in the midpoint. It trades up to it, it rejects and goes to the lower half. At that time, you don't ever want to see it go back above the midpoint. Ideally, you want to see it trade, once it leaves it here, go up and bump that wick into it and wick just below the midpoint or consequent encroachment, and then leave. And the very next fair value gap, because we're on a 1 minute chart right now, if it were to do something like that on a 15-second, 30-second chart, 45-second chart, the first fair value gap, once it leaves the inversion fair value gap and it displaces outside of it, the very next 15, 30-second or 45-second fair value gap, once it trades into that institutional order flow entry drill, use that and then target the next sell side liquidity or inefficiency. And I told you last week that this is like a huge black hole. And we were up here, and I said it's going to draw into that. It's a very, very large magnet. Okay, it's gonna suck price in. It's going to gravitate to it. And there's nothing that you're going to find in retail logic that's going to tell you that, but you're learning it. And Caleb needs to target new day opening gaps and new week opening gaps for his draw and liquidity. So while we're not pressing a button today, we're not taking any trades today, we're not engaging price, we're observing. And you're watching how price behaves with a very weak gap, a very, very small, weak gap. And that's back here. So it's not all that terribly influential for me to frame a bias around what I'm building for my son. Is there other things that I have to trade with that information? Yes. But if I start pulling out every tool and every other thing I know, is he really learning that model? No. But having the expectation of navigating conditions that his model's not going to be excelling in. In other words, there isn't a trade for him yet. There's nothing for him yet. The breakdown out of this inversion fair value gap on the 15-minute time frame, there is no gap in here. 10 o'clock is here, right there. Okay, so he has to find a fair value gap. No fair value gaps. Small one there. Nice one, it could have been there. I even talked about it live with you. I said it'd be nice to see it go up in there because that would be a real nice model for it to shoot from here down to the new week opening gap, new day opening gap that's nested here before it traded down there. Look at the bodies right on that high of the new day opening gap from August 23rd. Your support and resistance lines aren't going to tell you that. Okay, your pitchforks, they're not going to tell you. They're not going to tell you that. Okay. The model that he's being pushed into, like a mold. Okay, he's my son. I can do that, but I am realistic, and I know that millions of you out there watching this are not going to be pressed into the same mold. It doesn't work that way. But for him, I have to give him a baseline foundation. And I said to him, I said it to you openly, he may not stay with the fair value gap as his model, but it has to give him something to start with. And it makes him familiar with reading price action. So it gives him, I gave the analogy, if I take 5 red apples and 1 green apple, and your challenge is to stand there with your eyes closed, and I throw all of them up in the air, and then you're told to open your eyes up and just grab the green one. Your eyes are going to open up and see all these things moving around, and you're not going to have the experience, the time, and the skill level to go right for the green one, because our eye goes right to movement. And we're watching price action all the time. If you're looking at live price action, you're constantly distracted with fluctuations in price. And you're like a dog in a meat market where the first thing that can dangle within your distance of being able to bite it and eat it, that's what they're going to go after. It doesn't care if there's filet mignon over to the right. If there's a strip of bacon just hanging down long enough, close enough for their snout that's sniffing, almost lick it, they're going to go for that. The Wagyu beef, okay, to the left of them, they don't care about that. It's their first chomp and I'm going to get something. That's retail perspective. So the way you remove that and say, okay, I want a choice cut of meat. I'm going in to eat today. That's the intention. I'm going to go in and I want to take something home. I want to take my pound of flesh. But I don't want to go out there and just chase everything. So now if I teach you to have the perspective of close your eyes, you only have been studying the green apple. That's your PDA. That's not your PDA, your PDA array. You want to have your focus keyed up, your reticular activating system, by doing what we're doing here, which is watching price action. You can see this by watching my recordings. You don't have to have real-time data. Watch my old video recordings that I'm doing in live stream and study what price is doing. You don't even have to listen to me talk. Just study what price is doing. And when it does certain things, pause the video and then go into your charts and annotate that, dress that up. So that way it's in your charts. It's in there. And you keep a running log of a template that has your observations. Every single day they're there. And as long as you go back in time and you zoom out your chart that shows you this much information, your annotations will be there. And you refer to how it behaved in the delivery and building of the weekly range. And that's what you do on the weekend. But when the market is not providing you a model, you don't feel any regret. You don't say, well, I'm throwing this model out because it didn't give me a setup today. Oh, but this model's better. Trading inversion fair value gaps are better. I'm going to do that because that's what worked today in live stream for ICT. And Caleb's model doesn't have a setup yet. So doesn't that mean it's better than Caleb's model? No, that's a myopic, toxic thought. You're trying to cut corners. You're trying to force your model to be in every day, every instant, every session. No, that's the problem. That's a problem within the way you're thinking. And you have to relax yourself and say, I'm only interested in price if it shows me what I'm looking for. And if it's not going to give it to me, that means I have to wait. And there's nothing wrong with that. You can't act like a child that sees the big sucker in the store aisle. And yes, it convinced its mother or father to buy it for them. But just because they have it now in the cart doesn't mean they get to eat it right now. So it's a matter of managing your expectations, controlling your impulsive nature that you want to do something. And you're willing to break your model and abandon your plan just to be a part of something. And that is not conducive for consistently profitable. In fact, it creates such a huge matter of anxiety, second guessing yourself, because you're not submitting yourself to watching price and say, this is the model I'm looking for. And I'm going to wait for that. And if it doesn't do it, guess what that means? I had no losing trade today. I didn't spend commission. I didn't have losing trade, but I had gained much more experience in patience. A lesson learned in patience, forging patience, fighting off fear of missing out, FOMO, fighting off the greed, fighting off the natural tendency to feel like you belong here. One of the ladies that have recently been commenting on the content mentioned that I believe, I don't want to say your name because I'm afraid that they'll bring, you know who you are, but she said that she had folks being highly critical of her, and because it's more or less viewed as a man's industry. And I'm going to say this again, and I know the young men don't like this. They say I'm simping. I had to look that up. I didn't know. I'm 52. I'm pretty close to what's going on, but I had to look up what simping is. But my best students are women. My most profitable students are women. They have a vagina. Okay. If that hurts you, if that bothers you, oh, that's your problem. Okay. But they're more inclined to think like I'm trying to teach my son here, is to not rush. They're not out there trying to, show it to the girls club, the women's club, the girls night out, the first wives club. Okay. They're not out there saying, look what I did today. Look how much more I did better than all of you. They're not doing that. They're trying to get good at it because they want to be able to be independent. They want to be able to hold on to the ideas that they can do this without anyone else doing it for them. And weak-minded men don't like that. They don't like that. And it's too much competition. And I'm telling you, okay, women have a built-in advantage in trading and investing because they don't take silly risks and they don't trade with ego. That's why my best students are women, and that's why my best profitable students that have been longer term profitable than the males, because they are not trying to look smart on the internet. And you can borrow that logic, gentlemen, from them. The way they're thinking in terms of not trying to be aggressive, they're not trying to be better than everybody else. They're just trying to do it well enough that they're comfortable in their own skin as a trader. And it's hard for women to do this industry because there you go. Look at almost hit her. Almost hit it, didn't it? There it is. Perfect. So when you have women trying to do this and they're met with opposition from the very toxic male, attitude that, we're better than you, we're barbarians, and you should be knitting, you should be, making me a sandwich, like the lady said in the comment, which I thought was funny. The You have to relax and just say, there might be a woman out there that's going to be better than you, even at the highest form of your trading, where you think you've met the highest peak of your next one. Would be the day we can get down here. And if that wrecks you mentally or psychologically, that as a woman out there is so much better than you and you can't even do what they're doing, you have some growth there for you. You have some opportunity. But I don't ever see any ladies out there, flexing and saying, I'm better than this one. Well, that's not entirely true. I did see one. I did see one on Twitter last year, but I muted her. Not physically, but I shut her down the way she was acting because it wasn't ladylike and it was just toxic. But you don't usually see that. But the men, absolutely. And this is why I'm trying to tell my son, when you get good at this, you're literally going to feel like you want to go out there and smack people around because maybe you saw something was said about me or what it is I've done in my entire life. And women aren't usually like that. And that's why they make the most money. That's why they're better traders. They have far less executions. They have far less fluctuations in their P&L and their equity curve is much, much smoother because they're not impulsive in a manner like a man is, because we have to show that we can do it. We have to do it. It's in our nature. We have to prove it. We have to prove that we can do it. Where women, generally, because of their mindset and the way they're wired, they want stability. They want continuity. Think like they're naturally made and created as the person between us, the two sexes, and there's only two of them. When they're birthing a child, they have the miracle in them that they can produce that and produce another person. And before that child is born, they're nesting. And I know this by experience because I've had multiple children. I have 5 kids. And I've seen how a woman changes. And there's a level of responsibility that kicks in that when I was a young dad, I didn't have that. I was scared. I was like, am I ready for this? She's not worried about this. She's like, I got to get the house ready. I got to get this ready. We got to do this. We got to do it. And she knew exactly what needed to be done, how it needed to be done. And my mind was just swirling around. Am I really ready for this? See, that's the thing. And in trading, that's the same thing that happens when price is moving around, gyrating, delivering price. Men are like, what's going on? What's going on? And the woman is saying, is there something for me to do right here? Because I'm not trying to do things that are outside of what's my responsibility right here. My responsibility is my model. And women tend to, and I've trained a lot of people over the years, women tend to be more responsible. They're more principle oriented. They're much more acclimated to following rules and procedures and sticking to them, where men are like, I'm going to try to reinvent the wheel. I don't want to listen to this other guy. I want to make it my own. I'm going to change it a little bit. And the women don't do that. And if you look at the statistics, the women are making more money. The women are better traders. And that might hurt you if you're a man, if you're a young 20-year-old, or if you're a teenager, and you feel like, oh, I couldn't learn from a woman. Well, when I bought Street Smart's book, I recognized that that was a woman that co-authored that book. I didn't know who she was. I just noticed that that was a woman that wrote that book. I didn't have any initial trepidations about that. And her comments in that book helped me understand stop runs and stop hunts. That because I didn't understand before. And I could be out here saying, oh, I never learned from a woman. But that woman gave me one of the biggest insights I've had about reading why I was losing in trades. I didn't understand that that was a thing. I just thought I was just doing it wrong, and that's all there was to it. So you have to be real careful, Caleb, in the beginning by trying not to mold an expectation on yourself that you have to be better than the next person. You don't have to live up to dad's ability. You don't have to even do 1% of it. It's your progress that's important. And where you go as a trader, you could be better than me because I'm teaching you these lessons where so many people don't realize they waste time worrying about stuff like this. And if you don't build those toxic thoughts, and if you don't build these Olympic level feats that you have to live up to because you want to be able to be looked at in the community as a pillar, as a titan, as a legend, don't worry about those things. Those things are not important. They're not going to make you more money. They're not going to make you trade better. In fact, if you look at those types of things, it makes it harder for you to trade because you have to live up to that expectation. The women in this industry, they're not out there trying to live up to any expectation. They're not trying to be superheroes. They're not trying to be Wonder Woman of trading. But think about how every man wants to be Superman. They all want to be impervious to losing. Never happens to them. They never call it wrong. They don't have a kryptonite. But if you're Superman, you're always going to have a Lex Luthor. You're always going to have a villain. You're going to have a Legion of Doom that's going to be coming after you. And if you entice enough people to pay that much attention to you and make it about image, they're going to troll you. They're going to cause you to second doubt certain things. And then when you do anything in the future, it's going to be measured on what are they going to think about me versus what does my model say? Should I be doing anything here? Should I be trading at all today? That's the right perspective. And women tend to do that better than men. So in my opinion, women are better traders, period. Convince me otherwise. So it is 10:38. All right, I'll talk for 2 more minutes and I'm going to close this one. What I want you to do in this, Caleb, is go through all the delivery on the 1 minute chart, the 5 and the 15-minute time frame. Match up everything that any kind of retracement, any up close candle, every up close candle rather, on a 1 and 5 minute chart. You want to find the reference point on the 15 in relationship to where it's reaching, where it's traded to here. I want you to note every inefficiency, all the ones that stayed open, and I want you to note where we close at noon, what the closing price is at noon. And everything prior to that is the AM session run. I want you to study all that and then share with me this evening your observations. Tell me what you see, and obviously those things will be shared with the folks on your YouTube channel. But nothing in here should have caused you to feel like I need to chase it. It should have been fun watching it. Gravitate down to this new day opening gap nested with a new week opening gap. We had a level here and we outlined on the 15-minute time frame, old low. It traded to that and accelerated down through. Next candle opens, wicks up, overlaps the new day opening gap, and then acceleration to the downside. So in closing, let's take a quick look at the 5 minute. I don't like these kind of lessons, ICT. Okay. You won't do well then. You want to take a screenshot like that. Annotate your observations and sell side here. 15-minute time frame. You want to annotate your observations on this with that chart like that. And just for my own personal taste, I want to see what it looks like on a 60-minute chart. 4 hour. Right here. Into the afternoon and to overnight going into tomorrow. You want to have this that sell side, and then this buy side imbalance, sell side inefficiency. What is going to be important for me, now this is me taking Caleb out of the equation just for the sake of him and all of you watching. This delivery here on that one single candle overlaps this single candle right there. Normally, this would be viewed as a balanced price range because it's offered sell side. And then over here, it starts at the same level here, buy side's been offered. So this range is sent lower and back up. So it's offered both sides. If it starts to go into this and it's doing it with speed, then we have changed in a degree that's going to start sending us lower for weeks, not just a day or two. So that's what I'm using this information here. I want to see if we can get into this area. Is it doing it fast? Because it should not do it fast. So you look at this and say, oh yeah, this is one of those areas where it's open traffic. Okay, it's going to be easy for price to get down into that. Not if you're looking at it at the same time that it's delivered like that. If it does it quick, if it trades down in here and it does it quick, that's indicating that we have turned the corner up here. And then we're probably going to want to trade lower. On a higher time frame, there's a lot of interest, especially with all the stuff that's going on around the world. There's a lot of WARU paying attention going on. And right below here, I see that getting attacked before we get to the holidays. And that's it's a big move. So kind of like showing you my cards, if you will. But it has to do what I just outlined moments ago. So we traded below there. Next sell side of any importance is here because this has already upset those relative equal lows as well. So that is key sell side liquidity. This inefficiency we have to watch going forward if we can get into that. And let's just put it on the chart so it's there. And then I'm done for today. All right, and then change that to light blue because it's a discount array. All right, and that's the business for today. I promise you, these lectures this week won't feel sexy. They won't be like, wow, that was a barn burner like we've been doing for the first 3 weeks. But these are the parts that are going to help you the most. Because me coming out here demonstrating ability and prowess and calling trades out, there's lots of things I could show that are not in his model today. And I would look great. And people would leave comments and it'd be a sugar fest and coma inducing, loving comments all over the place. I had 3 or 4 of them that said, one of them was STFU, some punk. And you get to say something at one time. But the majority was everything else is really, really nice. And a couple other people are like, they're still confused. Well, if you just sat down and started learning, that's a normal feeling. No one learns how to do it right away. It's not something that's going to be easily learned. But we don't have a time limit on this because it's my son. So I'm putting him through the ropes the way it should be, how it should be done. And I'm giving him all of the reminders that it's normal for you to sometimes feel like you didn't get something out of this. But if you look at it that you're not trading with real money before you should have, and you didn't lose anything. So what are you doing? You're keeping yourself from picking up toxic thinking. You're looking at it properly. You're observing price. We had objectives. We were watching price and it delivered. That's how you should feel about it. You should feel that we were able to see where it could gyrate to, where it could reach to. That was here. From here. As soon as we saw that the bodies were not indicating that we were going to leave the fair value gap on the 50-minute time frame, bullishly leaving it going higher, your eye is still looking for sell side liquidity. Your eye is looking for discount arrays. You're looking for discount inefficiencies. That's all this stuff here. And when you're new, you don't have the ability to find a trade right away. And before that, you don't even know where it's going. Where can it likely draw to? How do you know that? How do you know when the market's not likely to continue running, as I indicated in here? 1, 2, 3 drives, or in the book Street Smarts, they call it three Indians. Why are they not getting chasing police to tell them that they renamed a 3 drives pattern. Right. But there's logic in reading price action like this in a relaxed state where you're not trying to impress anybody, you're not trying to press a button. You're taking information, you're collecting it, and you're observing. You're going to look back at this price run here 3, 4, 5, 6 months from now. If you've done it, if you took the time to go through and look at the observations you make today and make that in your journal. And then when you look at it half a year from now, 6 months from now, next summer, when you're looking at price action, you're going to see so many things that you don't see right now. And it's going to be so obvious to you that it's there, but you can't recognize it right now. And it may be your second or third model that you see. You don't have to have just one. I have models that I work with in markets that are choppy, list type lethargic price action. And I have models that will do very, very well in that. But they won't work well in trending models. If I know the market's likely to trend, I got 3 or 4 models that do very, very well at that. I have models that are focusing on reversals. I have models that trade the market maker buy and sell models. I have models that simply trade intraday volatility, and I'm buying and selling all day long, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. That's Enigma. I don't need a bias for that. I don't need long-term draws on it. I don't need anything. I don't need any PD arrays. I don't need any of that stuff for that. But to communicate in a language for you, my children, to understand it, and for anyone that wants to make themselves available to learn it with them, this is the language I've created, so that way you can see it, learn it, and then go into price action using that language, and then you will see what your model is, and it's not me pushing you to it. Think about what we showed so far. We have the optimal trade entry, which was the longest running flagship setup on my YouTube channel. And then you had my daughter's model 2022. Then you had Silver Bullet, which is Cameron's model. And now you're seeing that the new day opening gap, new week opening gap with a fair value gap, the first presentation of that, that's Caleb's model. So Silver Bullet's always there. Every single day, Silver Bullet's there. I've seen a couple people putting videos out saying it don't work anymore. They changed it. Again, I don't want to have the conversations anymore because number one, it's obviously discounted, and you can discard that logic by simply going in with the right way of looking at what it's doing. But they want it to be perfectly easy. And because they can't do it, they want to put the message out there because that way their followers don't expect them to try to be able to do it effectively because they're saying it's changed. It's not changed. Nothing's changed. The date is changing. Your calendar date is changing. The logic of making these markets go up and down, that's never changing. And you should be comfortable accepting that. It doesn't mean that you're going to be able to engage with price action every single day with your model. You might see a setup form and you might second guess it and not take it, and it runs. How are you going to feel about that, Caleb? Are you going to be mad that you doubted yourself and then it ran and you could have made money? You could have done something to impress dad. You could have said, look at this, dad, but you didn't do anything. And now you're thinking, I don't have anything to show him. And I'm releasing that for you right now. You do not do that. What's impressive to me is you didn't feel comfortable taking the trade, even though you saw it. You didn't feel comfortable with it. Something about it didn't feel right, and you didn't press into it. You've monitored price, and it delivered. The takeaway is you controlled yourself. You didn't break the model. You didn't chase price after it started moving after your model spoke. That's what I'm impressed by. I'm impressed by that you saw that it was there. I'm impressed by that. That's normal progress. That's the thing that you should be focusing on. But unfortunately, we as humans, we do not want to see it like that. We look at it as we missed money, we missed an opportunity, and I'm an idiot because I couldn't take my model and execute on it. And you beat yourself up verbally. You're driving to and from work thinking about what you could have did right versus the things I'm telling you that dad sees that you will be doing right and I'm pleased by. Because that's the stuff that keeps you in this industry long enough for you to get the experience to be consistently profitable. And the experience that you glean over time will help you ferret out picking the right ones that you want to be a part of. There's going to be times when your model is going to say, yep, it's a time to trade. It's there. And you're going to say, you know what? The daily chart, what it's been doing, what we got in that calendar later today or later in the week, I'm not touching this one. I'm just going to watch it. And if it moves, great. I'm entertained by that. It just gives me one more little nudge of assurity that I know what I'm doing and what I'm looking for. But if you make every fluctuation and every single time you sit in front of charts about making money before you know how to make money, you're going to lose money. And that will repeat all the time. And the only thing you're going to get from that is regret, toxic what if thinking, and you're going to be fearful to take setups in the future. You're going to be fearful that it won't work because you are forcing inexperience to deliver Olympic feat results, and that doesn't ever work. It never works. So when dad tells you this, relax, don't look for these things to be, I have to show that I can call it when it got to the right fair value gap and it went to where I thought it was going to go. That will come. I know that will come. But that will come as a result of you doing this. Relax. Watch price. It reaches to the levels we understand. We are looking for it to gravitate. How did you feel as price was dropping down there? Some of you watching that are eavesdropping in our conversation here. You've been invited nonetheless, but you're still eavesdropping. How did you feel as price was dropping? Did you think, wow, I can't drop any more than that? Oh, it's probably done. It's probably done now. It's going to start going up. Did you have any moments like that? There were wonderful opportunities to go in and annotate that's what you thought was happening at the time. And then study what price actually did. What signatures were there to indicate that nothing had changed? Nothing changed. We went down and stopped with the bodies here. We went outside of the new week opening gap, right into a up close candle. That right there, that little retracement, and then break down right there. As soon as we crossed over that, that's another indication that liquidity is being offered to the downside. That means we're still in a sell program. That means that sell side is still the mode of delivery, lower prices, in other words. And the market just simply goes right back up to that one more time. When anybody looking at this, maybe if you put an indicator like RSI or CCI or a MACD, any kind of momentum indicator, I bet you that there is some measure of bullish divergence with these lows. And if you're watching indicators like that, stochastic, something to that effect, you get tricked into thinking, okay, it's done. Look how much it's moved. So, and you start seeing divergence in momentum indicators like that, then, oh, it's definitely done. And I lost so much money doing that in 1992, 1993, 1994, trading with divergences, thinking that it's done because it's diverging. It has to follow what the indicator says, right? And it doesn't. It doesn't respect it at all. Okay, but if you start looking for trend following type 2 divergences, that means on your momentum indicator, if you look at the high here and the high that's made in your indicator, I'm telling you how to use retail logic with my stuff behind it. My stuff makes your retail stuff work because this is the market. And it's going to sound very condescending and arrogant. Do you just hear this guy? Yeah, I said what I said. Go back and Marilyn didn't listen to it. But the short-term high here and this lower high here, you're going to see your momentum indicators are going to have a higher high reading here versus that one. And that's a type 2 trend following, or what is called as a hidden divergence. And Nick Van Nice was the author and creator, and he's the one that gave it to the trading industry. It was not George Lane. And George Lane didn't invent stochastics. Okay, so these are all things that are promoted in books, and because people hear it and they read in other books, they think, well, that's the history. This is what it really was. And you don't know anything when you have that stuff. And that's what you're seeing. You're seeing a wave of smart money concept books being written by clueless individuals on Amazon, trying to get their little mark in history, and they're just basically going to be a shit stain in the underwear of trading. They're literally out there making fools of themselves, because when the real logic is shared, it's going to be a glaring, obvious spotlight placed on their ignorance. But it's a cash grab. They got to pay their credit cards off. They got student debt. I get it. You got to pay your bills. I got it. But you're not going to be a pillar in the industry. You're not going to be a giant. No one's going to care about your book because it's going to be toilet paper. And rushing to do things like that versus sitting down with a notepad, listening to the old man. Listen to me. My goal is for you to do well and learn it correctly. Casper SMC. Young man, I think you probably put more ICT content out than anybody else besides myself. And you've recently made a video like all the ICT trade setups in 19 minutes. You're teaching something in your diagram, the change in the state of delivery. You have that on the lowest down close candle. That's wrong. It needs to be on the highest succession down close candle. So that's wrong. And even in your diagram, you can see price is good right to the opening price of the second highest down close candle. That's the change in the state of delivery. Okay, that's the order block. So fix that. Re-upload your video or make a overlay and correct yourself because that's not right. But I was going to leave a comment, but I thought that would be rude. But this way, everybody can go and watch you and get some ad revenue off of it. But correct it because it's not right. So the main takeaway is for the lecture today is for you to slow down, observe price. When it's not obvious and your model's not speaking to you, Caleb, don't force anything. Don't try to reverse it. Don't try to force a setup. Don't try to chase something else. Don't reach for another PD array of dad. Well, I can't find my model today, so I'm going to trade order blocks, or I'm going to trade optimal trade entry, or I'm going to use something else. Don't do that. That's one of the biggest things that my paid students made the mistake of trying to do. They don't have the wherewithal to stick with the model. And that means being comfortable with their model not giving them a setup today. It's not an everyday make money. When you're brand new and you don't know what you're doing, that is not the right mindset. And people that tell you that, they're fools. They're absolute fools. And if they get lucky to force something in those environments, what they have done is they've rewarded bad thinking. They've rewarded impulsiveness. And that's exactly what a gambler feels when he goes to the casino and he thinks he's lucky. And he goes home without money. He goes home with regret. But guess what? He's going to get comped a free room so he can go back out there again and give them more money. And he's going to take that as an indication that the universe is telling me I'm lucky. Look at this. They gave me a really good comp. And I even got a show ticket too. I got to fly out there again. Not realizing that they haven't made any changes that's going to make them better at gambling. They just think that everything's going to work out for them. And that's exactly what people do when they're watching price action. They zone out like a deer in headlights and they think, well, my model's not here, so what else do I do? You sit still and you log how difficult it was for you to sit still. And at the end of the day, you didn't lose money. That's the win. That's the takeaway. You're never going to hear profitable traders that teach emphasize the importance of that. You're not going to hear it because it's all about getting into a move so that way you can high five each other. Look at my certificate. I got a funded account. Look at my payout. High five. That's what it's about. The engagement traffic about how I have lots of people that are making money. I have lots of people passing funded accounts. I have lots of people getting payouts. I have lots of people trading real money accounts. And that's going on all day long, all the time. But I'm not cheerleading that. The folks that come here, while that might be great for them, that they're making money, there's nothing that they can do by seeing someone else's success like that. It might inspire you, like, wow, I want to be able to do that too. But I'm going to tell you the real behind the scenes feelings are. I can't get there, and I want to rush to get to that. That's what always happens. My students that have been honest, when they see other people in our groups be successful and they made money, it's almost like resentment. It's resentment. And it's easy to see why my community, the people that follow me, are the most abrasive and called toxic because they're so in a race to keep up with the ones that are successful in my community. And when they can't get there as fast as they want to, they become very toxic and critical of everything. And that stems from not doing what I'm teaching this week. You have to relax. My results are not your results. You've never seen someone outline a $200,000 trade live ever. You've never seen that before, but you've seen it Friday. You saw that Friday. But there's some people that say it doesn't work. He called both sides of the market. No, I did not. I did not. But you that are demanding, I need to know every day. I need to know the right ones that work only when it makes me money. And I need to know how to use a stop loss that's never going to get hit. If you have that framework right now, this is the week that you want to spend the most time in, because you have a lot of character flaws that are going to, and they're normal. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to beat anybody up that thinks like this, and I'm not trying to make you feel stupid. It's an opportunity to recalibrate or to initially calibrate yourself with the right mindset. Because if you go into trading with these things in your head that you're putting so much emphasis on, my model has to be executed every single day. I have to make money every single day. I got to be able to see my model when it presents itself. You might have a model of choosing, and it might not be this one here that I have for Caleb. You might see a day where you didn't see it form, and then it starts running. Oh, I missed it. You know what that is? That's progress. But it isn't going to feel like progress when you first do it. It's going to feel like you failed. And you're going to feel like, I don't want anybody to ask me how I did today. I don't want to go on social media. I'm not going to talk. I'm not leaving comments on my favorite friends. Because if I stay under the radar, they're never going to ask me, how was your day today? And you don't want to have to lie, but you will, forced into a corner. You're going to say, yeah, my model did this. I did this. My model gave this many points. Okay. But that's not trading it. And you know that. And now what you just did, you just laid down scar tissue. You inflicted wounds on yourself. Your ego and your intellect has now been bruised. You did something with a transaction with people that don't care about you. They don't care about you. If you make money, they don't care. If you lose money, they're going to be there to laugh about it. But after that, they're done. They're looking for something else because it's all stimuli. So you have to have the right perspective of what you're doing, why you're doing it. The outcome is not the goal. The process and following that process, that is the goal. Because if you do those things correctly, the results will do what they're supposed to do. Keep stacking up in positive the column. But if you don't have the right mindset going in and observing, okay, there's nothing for me to do right now, so sit still and be okay and be comfortable knowing that that's fine. That's realistic for you to feel, well, I'm looking for something and it might not present itself today. Or you just aren't on your game today. You're not dialed in. And it runs and it doesn't do anything to get you in. That's wonderful. You didn't lose money. That's someone with 32 years of experience telling you that that's okay. It's good. It's good for you to not have lost money doing things that were silly. But if you've ever traded with real money, how many times have you done silly things like that? And you knew, wow, I wish I could just go back in time. I knew it wasn't anything in the market. I just gave into that impulsiveness. I just want to push the button. And guess what? Women tend to do that less. Now, I do have students that are female that have admitted that they've done that, but not to the degree that men do. I have so many students over the last 20 years that it's almost like the same person's writing them. They're not. I've received payments from a lot of them and they're not the same person. And their initial stages were very similar. I don't even know why I pushed the button. I sat there. I don't know if it was being bored or what it was. I just felt like something came over me and I just pushed the button to get in. And I knew as soon as I pushed it, I should have never done it. But then it started working in my favor. I was like, well, wait, man, wow, it's really doing something. And then comes back on them. And they lost money. And then you're losing money when you follow your model. It's measured risk. And it's something that you should be comfortable with if you lose. If you're not ready to accept that, and I'm going to repeat it again because it probably went right over your head. If you're not ready to follow a model, trust that this is the framework in which you're going to engage price, place a stop loss, a real stop loss, not a two-handle stop loss, something that's reasonable that based on the structure in the marketplace you're engaging with. It's reasonable for it to fluctuate around, but if it goes to that stop, you're definitely wrong. That's why most people don't want to use a stop loss, because what are they doing? They're defining a moment in price where they're wrong. And that just cut real deep right now, didn't it? You're uncomfortable. You want to turn the video off. You want to stop watching the stream right now because I just pushed you into a corner like a bully and said, give me your fucking lunch money. But you got to recognize that. You got to say, you know what? That's true. So that's an opportunity. How can I correct that? Well, I'm glad you asked. You have to learn how to read price action and know what your model is suggesting is likely to occur in price. And you cannot figure that out by watching my videos. You're just getting familiar with it. But you have to watch price action. You have to study it. You have to back test it. You have to log it and get comfortable seeing it many, many, many times. I take losing trades, folks. It's going to happen to you too. But I don't go into a market and think, man, what if I get stopped out? All this stuff's going to go out the window if this trade fails. If this one stops me out, I might as well just throw all this stuff away and just start trading Bollinger Bands. That's never going to happen. But the point is when you're forced to come to the root decision-making catalysts of using a stop loss, a trader without a model, without experience, that should not be trading with real money yet, to implement and use a stop loss, which is what you always should do. You should never be trading without a stop loss, ever. I don't care what anybody tells you. You're an idiot if you're trading without a stop loss. You're literally saying, I don't care how much it wants to hurt me. I'm here for it. That's what you're saying. And that's not somebody that's managing risk right. And that to me is crazy. But if you're saying to yourself, I'm going to implement a stop loss on my trade using the model that I'm trying to engage price with, I'm placing my stop at this price level, whatever it is. When you do that, you're essentially saying, I am wrong if it goes here. And I'm okay with being wrong. And I'm okay paying for this experience. I'm going to college in this trade. I'm going to a seminar that I had to pay a fee for, listening to a professional. Okay? You're using the same logic there. It's costing you something. But that stop loss is doing a whole lot more, isn't it? It's defining the very moment that you, as a man or woman, a trader in the pursuit of success, that you're wrong. And some of you think that you're going to be the person that never does it wrong. So how do you avoid it? Don't use a stop loss. I'm never wrong then. But you're always blowing out. You're always failing your challenges, and you're always losing your funded account. That's what keeps happening because you don't want to use a stop loss. You don't want to admit that you're wrong about that trade idea, and you don't want to use a leverage that is reasonable. That if you do get stopped out, yeah, you're wrong on that trade, and it didn't take more from you, so you can still take another one that could yield easily 3 to 4, 10 times what you just took as a stop loss. But you're not thinking that way initially. You're thinking, I'm going to make money. I want to get a payout. I want to pass the funded account challenge. I want to show everybody my certificate. I want to get handshakes from everybody and attaboys and attagirls on social media. That's what you're trading for. Versus, I want to protect my equity. I want to be in this longer than just today or next week or this month or this summer or this year. And my goals are, I want to be able to replace my income. I want to be able to pay my car note every month on this. I want to be able to pay grocery bill. Not, I want somebody else to tell me I'm doing good. Because doing things in trading for those types of results, you're going to break rules. You're not going to follow your model. You're going to over leverage because you're trying to impress. And I don't want you thinking like that, Caleb. That's why your rules are you can only trade with one contract. That's why you're going to be trading with a micro contract first. Because you're not trying to impress me with how much you're making. I got plenty of money. You know that. I ain't impressed by money. I'm impressed by skill set, following rules, and being responsible and honest with what you're trying to do. So when you get stopped out, when you start trading, I'm not going to ever look at you and say, what a failure. I'm going to be thankful that you used the stop loss. I'm going to be thankful that you at that moment decided that you are wrong and you're comfortable in your own skin at that moment should you be stopped out. And it doesn't take enough to hurt you. It doesn't change your trust in the model. It doesn't take enough from the account that you can't take another trade. You see what I'm forming for you, son? I'm giving you a shield first. Because if you have a really good shield and you can stand on your own 2 feet, the market can slap you around a lot. And you can take a lot of those shots and you're still there. You haven't got your sword and spear yet. You haven't got that stage yet. Okay. You're just learning how to stay on your 2 feet and hold that fucking sword later on to stab it in its heart. Right now, you just have to hold on to that shield and keep yourself in the game. By doing it that way, you're learning more about your footing. You're learning about how you have to navigate and parry when the market does things you didn't expect. You're still in it. It doesn't change and wreck your whole perspective on, I'm never going to get it. And that's what happens with everybody. Everybody feels that initially. No one has ever walked out there and had straight success and they never doubted whether they're going to be able to do this consistently. No one's not ever had that moment of doubt. And the more you involve yourself initially with trying to chase the money, the sooner that moment's going to come. And you don't have enough experience to say, that's not realistic for me to think that way. But while you're at work, when you're with your girlfriend and your boyfriend, when you're eating, you're going to be disgusted because you're thinking that way. And that's going to consume that private time that you're away from the market. You're going to be obsessively thinking about the market. And what are you going to be obsessively thinking about? How good you've been trading? No, you're going to think about the things that you are doing wrong. And you're laying down more scar tissue. And it's going to make it harder for you to learn how to do this thinking that way. Once you have scar tissue, that's toxic thinking. That means you're fearful of the outcome of the trade. You're fearful of the model working for you, and you want to stop using that model. And it's going to be easier for you. It's going to be painless for you to just say, I'm not using this one. It doesn't work for me. I want to use something else. Or you'll take a leap and completely say, I don't want to even use any of this logic. Give me an indicator. And you're hiding from the root cause that you are not doing what you're supposed to be doing. You're not sticking to a process. You haven't formed a model that you can stay with to see the results are there. I literally could flip a coin. Heads I'll buy, tails I'll sell. The first return to the opening range gap. And if I'm not risking but 1/4%, by the end of the year, that's profitable. That's a challenge for someone to run the numbers on it. Use your system tester to do that. Rewind it, listen to the logic. It's simple. Use the other end of the opening range as your stop loss. At the end of the year, you're making money. I just gave you something that's completely mechanical. Literally completely mechanical. It doesn't even have a bias. It's simple. But that's demanding too much of you. Just like staying on the right side of the road is too demanding for most people. Just like the sign that says, don't go faster than the speed limit. They're not suggestions, that's the law. But I break the law a lot. I want to see how fast I can get above that speed limit from a red light. If I have nobody in front of me and it's open road, my cars sometimes get asked to do things that they legally are not allowed to do. But I'm not doing that on 95, trying to be speed racer and risk everybody's lives and my own personal property. I know that that stop loss might get hit. I manage the risk there. But if I'm on a back road and it's a straight shot, it's all farmland, worst thing can happen is a deer jumps in front of me, and that would suck. So everything has to be measured in risk. And you're gravitating towards understanding how to define that risk. But you're doing it in a way where you're not focusing on the results of monetary wins or losses. That's not the report card. We're not even there yet. We're not there yet for you. And seeing a move that, I could have made. No, don't. If you say I coulda, you just replace it. Well, I don't need to do that right now. I didn't need to do it right now. That's how you replace that logic. And it's a way of replacing and recalibrating your mindset about the outcomes. You're rushing to get to I am profitable and I'm going to be able to go out and make more money today in the afternoon. I'll go out there and do it tomorrow because I have a model. Until you get good at trusting the model and identifying it, that part's never going to be there. And people don't put themselves through the proper time required to get to that mindset. And that's why they system hop. That's why I system hop as a young man. I have no shame in the game telling you that's exactly what was going on in my mind, because I wanted immediate results. I wanted immediate feedback that it works all the time. All the time. I wanted everything to be perfect and easy and fast for me. And that's why I talk to all of you that are listening in that mindset, in that delivery of criticism, because I went through the same thing. I'm not trying to talk down to you like I didn't go through it. I went through the same stuff. I just didn't have somebody trying to kick me in the rear end and say, this is wrong. I had to lose a lot of money many times to learn the lessons that I'm doing this wrong, because I kept repeating the same stuff, expecting a different result. And some of you simply want to go through the same things I went through, because it's like we're sitting around. Like, remember, I've used this before. I love the movie Jaws, the original one. And Roy Schneider and the two other guys are sitting on, and they start comparing their scars, how they got hurt. And like, oh yeah, look at this one. That's typical of men. That's a classic man thing. Try to one up the next guy. Oh, you did that. Well, look at mine. I got some. Or the guy. You're the guy, or you have a friend that's always done something bigger, faster, better. That's a man characteristic. You don't see that in women. That's why they're better traders. They focus on what they got to do. What do I got to do? How do I do it? And leave everything else extra out of it. And when they get there, they're not parading it around like a peacock. Peacocks, it's a male thing. I'm open. I tell you, that's what I do. I go over to my wife and say, look what I did. Woohoo! You know who you're married to, woman? Look at this. You get all this. All this is yours, girl. High five. That's right. But you want to go through it sometimes. Most of you men, you want to go through that same process. I came through a battlefield, ICT. It was just like you, brother. Yeah, I went through the same stuff. Why? When I talk like this and I teach this way, it's the intended purpose for you to avoid it. You become better by not going through those things. I can recognize that some of you will be smarter than I am and say, you know what? This man was honest enough to say where his shortcomings are, what he focused on too much early on that caused him to make this learning curve longer, taking more time than it's necessary, trying to do stupid things instead of just saying, these are rules, these are the model parameters I got to operate in. This is the time it's going to be there, or it's not going to be there. If it's not going to be there, guess what? I didn't lose any money, and I've gained more experience. I've bolstered the confidence in myself that I didn't recklessly plunge ahead without doing a model. I didn't go in impulsively and just chase price action. And I didn't execute and pay commissions on a losing trade on top of it. That's all winning. That's winning. Because costs of trading, if you're reckless and you just go nuts, you can have trades that mathematically look profitable. But because you've over leveraged and traded so much, the commission costs and fees eat it all up. And there's so many people that don't realize that until they start doing it. Yeah, man, my trades add up to $1,000 today. I mean, $1,000. Yeah, what'd you pay in commission? Well, I had to pay $1,200 in commission because I traded a lot. But that's all right. I made $1,000. No, you didn't. You spent $1,200. And now you have less money in your account. That's not a winning day. When's the last time your mentor told you that? That's the reality of trading. Without a model, without rules, commission costs and fees are like piranha. They're just waiting for you to get into the marketplace because they're getting those commission costs and fees, whether you make money or not. So you have to only engage when it's more likely that you're going to see your model pan out. Watch the buy side here. Note that one, okay? Just for the PM session. So even if it wants to go lower, I'd like to see it trade up there, bump that, because that would be where anybody short would have trailed their stop loss. But I've went over today a little bit more than I wanted to. I wanted to try to keep it at like 10:30. But these lectures are meant to calibrate your mindset, Caleb, to remind you what you're doing, to avoid chasing things that are not important right now. That's the main takeaway, is because if you go in thinking, unlike the things I'm trying to shape your mindset around, focusing on the important things and filtering out all the other stuff, it's going to be harder for you to learn this and also to be comfortable in your own skin. If you don't want to listen to these lectures, I promise the outcome is going to be this, and I mean this entirely. It won't be for Caleb because I'm going to put him through the woodshed. He's going to have to do this, and that's the way it is. But for all of you listening, the outcome is going to be this doesn't work. There's too many moving parts. I don't like it. It doesn't work because it doesn't give me enough trades. If you have one good trade a week, you have more than 99% of retail traders because they have no idea what they're doing, but they're taking lots of trades. So having more of a frequency of trade that's not a plus for anyone that doesn't know how to trade. Unless you know how to do something really, really well that you can wait all week for. All week. One of the exercises I forced myself is I had to take a time-based trade on a Friday in the PM session. That means I was not allowing myself to take any setups while I watched price. Lots of opportunities, and it was agonizing for me. I wanted to push the button on everything. But to teach myself patience and self-control, which I needed a lot of in the beginning, I didn't have that. I was like a cowboy, literally just gunslinging everything. Buy, 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 buy. If Kramer would have been around then, I would have been broke faster. But Kramer's a guy on CNBC. He's a perfect indicator. When he says something's going up, it's going down. And, just look at his data. It's crazy. But I had to force myself to don't trade until the afternoon session. That means 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock. On that Friday, that was the only time I could take a trade. And every single day, it was like my skin was crawling. I was going through withdrawal. Like, man, like I don't know if I can do this. And so many times I would have my platform opened up thinking, okay, I'm going to call the broker in. I'm going to put this trade on. I'm watching Metastock. That was my play. That was my trading view chart program, Metastock. And I had super charts. I had TradeStation. And it was very, very hard for me to sit still. And to be honest with you, sometimes I gave in. And guess what happened? I would lose. And that loss was multiplied so many times over because I did not listen to the rules. I crossed the yellow line, I went over the speed limit, and I drove under the influence of greed. So should I be surprised that I wrecked? I shouldn't be, but I was at the time like, how'd this happen? How could this happen to me? I didn't deserve that. Yes, you did, Michael. You didn't follow the rules. You impulsively traded. You were supposed to wait until Friday, the afternoon session, between 2 o'clock and 4 o'clock, because you're not controlling yourself. You don't have self-control, and you're trading impulsively. So I had to force myself with these things. Maybe it's not that extreme for you. Maybe you're thinking that you're exempt from that. Okay. Well, what are you going to do to overcome that impulsive nature? It's only fixed by doing less and growing comfortable with less. And I found that I could do one trade in the bond market, and that one trade in the bond market could yield me more than my whole monthly income. And I'm like, wow, this is a whole lot less than I thought it was going to require. And that was an astonishing moment for me. It was an epiphany where I thought you had to trade every single day because the markets are trading. I got to find a trade. And I realized that less is more. Less is less to worry about. If you have 4 trades a month, your commissions are going to be the lowest it can be. I mean, think about it. Your commission costs are going to be extremely light. And if you're profitable, wow, your net profitability is through the roof. But no one's telling you that as educators. No one's telling you that. They're telling you, go, 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 baby. And all of these funding account companies, they love it because that's more commission costs or fees that they're collecting, and more likely that you're going to blow the account and then start up all over again. And I'm telling you, Caleb, you're not feeding them that. You're not fattening their wallets. You're going in just enough to take what you need. That's it. They'll make a little bit of money off of you. That's a given. But you're only in there to make a couple grand. Once you get to $5,000, that $5,000 is going to come out of there, and you will never open up another transaction with that funded account company ever again. And that $5,000 is going to go into AMP Global. And AMP Global, you're going to trade a micro contract, and you're going to build that up slowly until you can get to one standard lot. How are you going to know when you can trade one standard lot? When you're trading with 1.5 times the full exchange margin. Man, that's going to take, I don't care what anybody else says about how long it's going to take. You're in this to have a career. You're going to get bored with doing this. So that way, when you are trading with the standard lot, you're going to be making more than everybody else out there that's going to criticize if you give them a stage for it. They're going to be working their jobs when you're making doctor salaries in a month. They're going to be regretting not doing the things that you're going through when you're making more money than they ever imagined. They'll still be where they're at. Toxic thinking, being critical of other people, when you have done the work. And when you take trades, you're not going to be anxious. You're not going to be worrying about if you get stopped out, because the leverage that you're using is the minimum. And the risk you're placing on the trade cannot take your account from you. And when you have one winning trade for the day, you're done. If you have a losing trade, you're done. There's no question, there's no conversation, there's no doubts about it. This is the way it is. And you will make millions of dollars as a result of that. It just takes the time element that nobody else wants to put themselves through. They don't want to go through this process of forging ahead with the right mindset and slow and steady, giving yourself a chance to understand yourself and how you're going to derail yourself. Because it's my rules that you're following. Those rules will keep you from derailing. You cannot blow that account. Trading like that, you absolutely cannot blow the account. It's not possible. But invite more than one trade a day, and invite trading with a standard lot versus a micro before you're able to really afford it. Because with AMP Global, you can trade a standard lot with $300. And that is reckless. So many people have gone into very, very low commission brokers. I'm gonna be honest with you. I've let the live account be pushed with the expectations of my children to show them the results of money going up, money going down. And they've watched that. And to see them smile and think, wow, when it was real money in profit, and then watching their face when, yeah, that was a real $8,000 loss. And they're like, $8,000, wow. Yeah, it's sobering, isn't it? But see, when you go in, you're thinking that it's always going to be perfect. And you're shielding yourself and putting blinders on, thinking it's not going to be that way for you. You're going to do it differently, and you'll be able to walk through, and it'll just be easy. You're lying to yourself, and you're filling yourself up with expectations that can't be met. So you're making trading harder than it needs to be. You're making learning how to trade harder than it needs to be. Versus finding comfort and fun in reading price action. If you make that your first stage and bloom there, everything you do in profitable trading that's consistently profitable is going to stem from you doing this part right. But nobody wants to spend the time here doing this. They'll go to the golf range, pay the fees to be on a golf course and hit balls, out there like they're going to be the next Tiger Woods, knowing full well they're not going to be on any PGA tournaments. They're not going to be on TV, but they're going to be out there, damn it, every weekend. When the weather's good, I got to be out there on the green. That's not going to make them any money. They're going to put all the emphasis on getting out there in the woods to get that deer when they got food in the refrigerator. I got to go out there with the boys. It's got to happen. The fish are biting, hon. I got to get up early tomorrow. I don't know what time I'm coming home, but me and Rick, we're out there. We're going on the boat. Whatever. You'll pour your time and effort and energy in all these other things, and you'll spend your money chasing women in the club on Fridays and Saturday night, and on Monday regretting it and having nothing to show for it. And then, but you'll do the same thing, work all week to do that same thing on the weekend. Raise up your another week of girl money. And women, I'm not trying to be mean to you, but that's just what men do. And some of you women that are smart, they want to drink for free. You know how to work that system. You ain't going home with nobody, but you're drinking for free. And men simply just don't see it. They can be rooked easily. And that's why you suck as traders, because you want to throw your money away. And these markets are a cruel lover. They'll shake its ass at you, bat its eyelashes at you and say, come on, honey, you got a chance. But you're going home alone, broke. She had a great time. She had a great time. You paid for a wonderful experience for her to take it from you. And that's why you suck as a trader, because you think that way. And instead of saying, I want to know where I'm likely to make bad choices, and I need to fortify those areas. I don't want to get drunk. That's why I don't drink alcohol, because if I get drunk, I'm already an impulsive creature. I swing from one spectrum to the next. Very rarely am I in the middle. So if I intoxicate myself, or if I take drugs, I would be one extreme or the other. And I've never been in an environment where like that. I don't want to give myself that opportunity. So if I know that that would take me out of my mental faculties, I won't be able to make decisions well. I avoid that. I have abstained from those things all my life. Trading, you have to think about it the same way. This is what, like, the best part of Alexander's book, Alexander Elder, Trading for a Living, is the first half, where it has nothing to do with charts. That's where that book really shines, because it talks about persons that have alcohol addiction. And I grew up in an alcohol addicted household. My family members were all drunks or druggies. And my father, who was about to come out in the real world after 40 plus years in prison as a contract murderer, Michael Joe Hallington, 155634, that's his inmate number. The cut is the Jessup House of Corrections. Okay, he's been paroled, and we're waiting for him to be released. He picked up a drug addiction over in Vietnam, got addicted to heroin, came home, and the only way he could meet that expense was to do things illegally, and got wrapped up in the wrong people and started doing things he shouldn't have done and ended people's lives for money. I'm not bragging about that. He deserved to be where he was. He deserved that. And I know that book Alexander wrote, it resonated with me. I could see how, if I'm not careful, while I was a teenager, I kept myself from drugs, I kept myself from alcohol, and I did not allow myself to have my mind clouded by that stuff. And when I read that book, it really resonated with me, because I was like, wow, I'm glad I'm choosing to do this young, because maybe later in life, I could have had a midlife crisis and became an alcoholic or a drug addict, because I wasn't successful in life, and I made bad choices. And then there it is, I go into a tailspin. But that book really, it helped me focus on the most important factors. It's how we think, what causes this impulsive nature. If you've never read the book, if you don't have the book, go buy it. I don't have an affiliate link on Amazon. I'm not going to make any money off of it. Alexander Elder is not going to give me a kickback for you buying his book. But the first half of that book, honestly, that's the real problems why people can't make money. It's not that they don't have a good system for technical stuff. The technical stuff is absolutely, completely not important at all. I can trade without a chart. I don't need a chart. But the things that we think about, the catalyst for why we make decisions, and then when you put a cause and effect for making or losing money behind these impulses, if you've never identified what they are in yourself, and we all have it, folks. Nobody walks around with clean laundry, okay? Everybody has a dirty shirt somehow. Somebody has 2-day-old underwear, okay? Something about us isn't right as a trader. And that small little rock in your shoe is going to cause you to walk differently. You won't be able to do as much as you could unless you fixed it first. And by watching price action and studying how you internalize everything that market's doing. For men, it's a gladiator type thing. I'm going to battle. It's an MMA fight. I'm slaying a dragon. I'm Rambo going in and vanquishing all the enemies behind enemy lines with 3 bullets in my gun. I'm going to kill everybody with the least. Setting themselves up for failure, not realizing it. Placing so much emphasis on the cheerleaded after the fact moment that is likely never to come. And women don't think that way. They think, I have to nest. I have to get my resources together. And I have to make sure that everything is how it needs to be. That's process and protocol oriented. Men are, I'm swinging my sword. I'm emptying my clip. I'm literally going to go out there and remove the head of everything in front of me. I'm going to get the touchdown. I'm going to be the Super Bowl winner. I'm going to be the World Series winner. That's how men think. And that thought process is the very thing that holds men back as traders and allows women to excel. Think about it. If you're a woman, it makes a whole lot more sense now. Even if you aren't profitable yet, you know that you are doing things that are process-oriented, principle-oriented, organized. Everything you're doing is organized, not impulsive. Men, watch them. We are creatures of impulse. But when it comes time to defend the family and the home, that's what we shine on. That's what we're designed to do. We are absolutely the right thing for that. That's why we were designed to be bigger, stronger, faster. But intellectually, sometimes we miss the mark. And that is exasperated and highlighted with a bright spotlight in trading. And if you're weak-minded, little dick energy, you look at this and say, oh, I can't listen to this guy. Or you take it as a personal insult. Instead of saying, you know what? This makes a whole lot of sense. And I am holding myself back because I think this way. I had to do the same stuff, folks. It was hard for me as a young man who thought he figured out a lot of stuff and how everything works and everybody is going to be impressed. Nobody was impressed. And it didn't matter how much money I made. They were not impressed. They didn't worry about learning what I was doing. They wanted to be around me and let me spend money on them. So while I was not going to bars and giving the girls my money through alcohol, they were getting things from me and my personal, back then, friends that are not my friends now. They were just mooching off me. So I lied to myself and said, yeah, they respect me because they want to hang around with me. No, they wanted the gifts that I was giving them for hanging out. And I was spending the money because it made me feel like a big shot. So who's smarter there? It wasn't me. It wasn't me. It was them. They were the market then. They were taking from me. And I was lying to myself saying, I'm happy. I'm happy doing this. When eventually it got to the point where, this is dumb. What are they really bringing to me? What are they making? What deposits are they making into my life? Because I don't even feel good when I'm spending money on them anymore. And that's what you have to do. You have to take inventory while you're watching price action and discovering what makes you tick, what makes you fearful, what makes you feel like you have all the things figured out. And then when it doesn't work out like that, what were those catalysts? Because that's your problem areas. The things that make you impulsive. Do you get angry real quick? Do you feel scared out of nowhere for no reason, have anxiety attacks? You're watching price action and you're like, oh man, I'm having heart palpitations. And you don't even know why it just happened. I'm telling you how it happened. In the last 30 seconds, you just thought of something and you don't have an answer for it. And it scared you. And you're trying to throw it away like it didn't happen, but it's telling you with your body symptoms that you absolutely have something that you need to resolve. And if you're in the market trading, chances are you have more leverage on than you should. Or you just took a trade impulsively and you don't know what you're doing. And you're just like the person at the casino that laid down their chips on a hand that they don't know is going to win or not. Or they just put in money and hit maximum bet on the slot machine and pulled the handle down. And you know that that's either going to be the last one you did or you're going to get lucky. And your heart's palpitating. People put themselves through that every single day. And if you feed yourself that as a steady diet, not knowing what you're doing, over leveraging, over trading, eventually, your body is going to stop working properly. And you will have a heart attack. You will have a stroke. The things that you think you're about to feel and have, I have many times like that over my years. I just went through vertigo for the first time. And that vertigo attack made me feel like I was having a stroke. I thought I was dying. And for weeks after that, I was expecting a heart attack, a stroke. But it was just anxiety around not knowing what I had experienced. And then later found out it's vertigo. So now my blood pressure's fine. But when I'm in a constant state of, oh, it's going to happen again, it's a mess. Like it was messing up my blood sugar. It was messing up my blood pressure. Like I had wild high blood pressure, dizzy spells. And then finally, when I was shown that it was just vertigo, it's a small little calcium deposit that went into my inner ear and tricked my brain thinking that I was spinning when I really wasn't. It's a terrible thing, but there are exercises you can do to mitigate that. And it can come back. My mother's had it one time in her life and never had it again. I've had one episode with it. I hope and pray in Jesus' name I never have another one of them. But if I do have it, I know it's not a stroke. I know it's not a heart attack. But when you have it for the first time, it's terrifying. When you're in a trade and you're over leveraged, Caleb, you will feel like that. You'll feel like the weight of the world's crushing down on you. And you're literally standing still, but wishing you could run away. If someone tries to talk to you, even if they're the sweetest tone and well-intended purposes and trying to console you, you will think they're cussing you out and calling you the worst possible names and spitting in your face. Get away from me. Because there's this one more thing that's causing more stimuli in your brain because you're overloaded. You have taken on too much risk and you've done something impulsively. You know what you should be doing, which is get out of the trade. That's the corrective measure to stop it. You have to feel comfortable stopping a transaction, even if it's a losing trade. I have traded as a 20-year-old in panic, driving a truck, and drove recklessly, and took risks, and hit signs on the road because I was rushing to get to a payphone, sliding on ice, nearly tearing off the passenger side mirror of my employer's truck because I wanted to hurry up and get out of a trade that I just couldn't hold on to anymore in soybeans. I was losing my ass, and I was hoping all day that it was going to turn around, and I had literally 7 or 6 minutes left until I can get out of the trade. I tore the mirror almost completely off the truck, rushing, turning into a road that didn't even look to see if there was a car coming. I could have ended up hitting someone. And the only thing I cared about was getting out of that painful feeling of I'm not in control. And I ran into a company called Kelco on Baltimore Street. I'm not sure if it's even there anymore. I hated going to that stop, but I went there on a day I'm not even supposed to service it. But that was the first place I could go to that had a phone that I didn't have to put a quarter into it. I just want to run to it, grab it, pick it up, and dial the number. And I got out of the trade. And as soon as I got out of the trade, even though the mirror was tore off and I had to go and tell my boss I messed that up, I hadn't had any accidents prior to that. You would think I'd be scared that I'm going to lose my job. But because I got out of the trade, in 10 minutes of driving, My breathing was regulated. Panic was gone. Yes, I took a loss. Yes, my mirrors tore up. And yes, I'm probably going to get in trouble when I go back to talk to my boss and tell him what I did. But I was able to take it. My mind wasn't clouded. I wasn't in a state of disorientation, which is what you're going to feel in these markets if you let yourself trade like this, not knowing what you're doing, without a model, over leveraging, over trading. You're placing too much on your system, expecting a lottery result to come in and save you. And people that don't have a model or know how to trade, they repeat this over and over and over again. And there's people that are pretending to be mentors and they have no idea what they're doing. They don't even touch on these topics. Panic, anxiety. I lived with it for years with it. And the first thing you have to control is how you think. And you won't know how you're going to derail yourself until you go through the exercises of watching price, recording what you feel, how you feel. Do you feel elated? Do you feel invincible? When do those things manifest themselves? When you're watching price, what does it look like in the chart? Because it's going to happen again. And it's going to happen sometimes for you that are impatient when you're in a trade with real money and you're going to feel invincible. And then all of a sudden, the rug gets pulled out from underneath you. The market does what it's really going to do. And you're not looking for those things. You're looking for further evidence that you're perfect. You're looking for further evidence that you can't wait to go show everybody on social media how much money you just made. But you're not going to talk about how you had heart palpitations, you nearly pissed yourself, you feel like you're going to shit your pants, you feel like you're going to pass out, die. You're not going to share those results. You had no problem doing it. It's just an everyday thing for you. And that in itself is problematic because you're lying to yourself if you do those things, and you're making your progress harder because you're saying that it's easy for you right now when you're struggling to go through it. Young men, listen, it is not shameful for you to say, I am really struggling right now to get this under my grasp. I'm a wreck emotionally and psychologically when I'm studying this stuff and when I'm taking trades. I know I shouldn't do it, but I can't stop myself. You're the same thing as a gambler going to a casino. You're the same thing as that young man that takes all of his money that's worked all week and sees the pretty girl at the end of the bar or across the club and says, you know what? I'm going to spend everything in my pocket with the expectation that I'm going to get that take profit of going home with her. And she's just going to run your stop. She's going to margin call you. But you're going to do it the same way next week with a different girl. When is the end? When are you going to stop doing those things? Think about it. What is going to be the catalyst that says, I'm not going to do those things? Because in the marketplace, blowing the account and not having any more money to refund it, guess what? That's the outcome that's coming. It's going to happen. It will absolutely happen to you. So you have to know what are these things that's going to trigger that. So that way you can recognize them and say, I'm not going to recklessly plunge ahead. I'm not going to meet a uncomfortable drawdown of a losing trade today. I'm not going to feed that with more losses. Yes, it's not fun going home with a losing trade. But you know what's worse? Blowing the account. Making a small, less than 1% loss turn into 10% drawdown or maximum drawdown for the day and you can't trade your account. That sucks. That's recklessness. And not enough is said about these types of things. And the closest I've ever heard, Mark Douglas doesn't even come close. He doesn't even come close. Not to be disrespectful. The book is essential. Everybody should have it in their library. They should read it. But it still doesn't pair with the logic of knowing what you're doing is wrong and someone telling you how to fix it and you ignoring it. You may have read Mark Douglas's book, but are you implementing it? Yeah, I read it, man. I'm an OG just like everybody else. I read that book. But how are you trading? You're not using anything from that book. You're doing everything that he says that is going to be a problem. Think about it. You know what you're doing many times is not what you should be doing. And you shun that conscious in you, that little inside voice that's yours. It's your conscience saying, I shouldn't press the button. And you think, oh, wait a minute. And then something comes over top of you and you press it because you just can't sit comfortably in a position of self-control. So you let yourself do what your impulsive nature wants to do. And then you lose money. And it doesn't happen quick. It's going to be a long, drawn out process, a painful lesson that should be used as a means of saying, you know what? I don't want to do this again. But that's not enough. That's not enough, young man. You have to have more of it to see that there's a problem here that you need to identify. What is it you're doing? Are you angry because something just happened and you want to have a feel-good moment? Or are you impatient and you want to get there faster, knowing full well that you're not ready? That's what you have to be identifying. You have to identify your impulsive nature, your recklessness, and impatience. And what are those catalysts that promote that decision-making or that thought process at the time when you're taking these impulsive decisions and placing them in the marketplace? Is that part's for the people that are already trading, not you, Caleb. But this is an area that is rich for people to write books on. If you have experiences where you've made money, but you've gone through painful experiences like that and you want to write a book, I'm buying your book. I'm buying that. Because that's someone that had to wrestle demons that they made relationships with, that they protected. See, you're protecting all those bad decision-making catalysts. You're protecting them instead of saying, it's time to go. It's eviction day. You got to get out of here. What I'm trying to do, there's no room for you here. I'm building an enterprise and there's no positions open for detractors, derailers, things that's going to cause me to not find my success and reach my opportunities and my threshold of success. You have to identify them as soon as you can. And it's scary to do that because it makes you feel frail. When frailness in the beginning is a strength. It doesn't feel that way, but it really is a superpower. That you are not going to let your ego and your pride mask what is going to be the biggest barriers for you to succeed. All you have to do is recognize what they are and do everything you can to not feed them. What's the success rate for guys that go to the bars and spend all their money? Are they finding their wife? No. And the ones that they end up probably marrying in those conditions, do those marriages work out? Probably not. So why would you expect it any different in the marketplace when you're competing with the smartest people in the world that have control over everything? And they're tying strings to you like a marionette, and they're going to make you dance when they want you to. All they got to do is make the market run a little bit. And, I've been waiting for this move all morning. Let me get in there. I know it's probably not the best time to buy it, but I got to get in there because I don't want to miss it. And I won't use a stop loss because I don't know how much it's going to retrace. Does that sound like someone that has a sound logic and a model that makes sense to trade on? No, it doesn't. But at the time, you're going to convince yourself, it's my model. It's my right now model. And right now model is the model that always blows out. That wasn't your model 20 minutes ago. It wasn't the model last Friday. It wasn't what you were starting to trade with, and this is what you settled in on. It's your right now model. It's your right now decision process that has absolutely nothing to do with why you're trying to trade. It just means that you feel like you're going to get something out of the move. You're trying to milk it. And many times, you're not milking a female cow. You're milking a bull, and you know what you get from that. So you have a lot of work in the early stages of your development that you have to force yourself to be honest about. You have to recognize character flaws that once you identify them and you build in coping skills. Like I had to learn lots of skills to manage anxiety and agoraphobia. I had fear of being around other people. I could not have done what I'm doing today when I was 20. I couldn't have done it. I was so afraid of other people's view of me because I was trying so hard to make myself into something to impress my grandfather. So I had this deep rooted sense of wanting to shield myself from criticism. And then eventually it led to agoraphobia. I didn't want to be around other people. I didn't want to be around other people where they would say, hey, how's your trading going? Because I blew that account then. And I didn't want to lie because it's not easy to manage a lot of lies. Once you start lying, you got to remember everything. So I would avoid all those things. I would avoid meeting up with people. If we had family functions, I was sick. If we have a cookout, I've already ate. I'm not going. And I just stayed away from everybody because I didn't want the invitation of friends and family to ask me how I was doing because I didn't want them to say, haha, we told you. So it caused anxiety. And that anxiety exasperated to levels of agoraphobia, which is fear of being around other people. And your world shrinks down to what was at that time just my bedroom. And it started this toxic cycle of everything about myself I hated. Everything that I did was wrong. And I punished myself and punished myself and punished myself. And I was just in this small little world that I created for myself with fear, anxiety, and depression. And then it grew into an eating disorder. And I was very, very well built as a young man. I was working out. I had a very amazing upper body. I didn't work out. I was the guy that didn't do leg day. And I ain't got a shame to tell you. I look like a fucking ice cream cone. But it is what it is. I ain't going to lie to you. I didn't want to do my legs. It sucked. So I wore big baggy pants, Zubaz pants back then, like the Road Warriors, the wrestlers. It was big baggy pants and then muscle tees or tight t-shirts and showed everything. And I went down from 195 pounds, which was stacked with no juice. I was going to start taking steroids because I wanted to be a wrestler, WWF wrestler. And this agoraphobia and anxiety and eating disorder brought me all the way down to 150 pounds. And I might even show a picture of it the next time we do a live stream. I was emaciated. I looked a mess. I looked like a cancer patient before chemo. Like it was bad. And my bones and my joints hurt because I was malnourished. And I put myself through that. The market didn't do that to me. I did. I did that to myself. And it caused so many problems. I was developing an ulcer in my stomach. I had irritable bowel syndrome and colitis a lot, which are all terrible, terrible feelings of not being able to go to the bathroom the right way. And because I was constantly pumping acid in my stomach through stress and barely eating anything, I couldn't even drink water because it was painful. I was going to the emergency room, severely dehydrated, and they had to put IV bags on me, and I had to spend time there getting rehydrated. And I was doing it all the time. And that wasn't enough to say, you better stop before you kill yourself. I was trapped in this loop of constantly feeding the demons, protecting them. I was protecting them. And I needed someone to say, hey, you need help. You need to stop thinking like you're thinking. And you're doing it to yourself. And a lot of my students that have been upfront and honest, and please don't take this as an invitation to reach out to me, email, because it's barely ever an opportunity for me to get back to some of you that send me emails, and then you end up sending me emails months later saying you're a jerk, you don't ever answer my emails. Look how many people follow me. If just 5% of that ever sends me an email, I would never get through them. So it's not that I don't want to. There's so many of you. But I want Caleb to understand that this is a wonderful opportunity for you to carve out a lifestyle, a life for yourself, and it need not be millionaire status. You could just do really, really well making less than six figures, but high 90s and be comfortable, not have to work your job, not have to commute 2 hours. That sucks. Working 12-hour days. That's replaceable. You don't need to do much to get that replaced. But you can also chase unrealistic expectations and have high, lofty goals on yourself and paint yourself in a situation where you've told friends and family that you're going to do this and you're going to do that. And now you just made it harder for yourself, which is why I tell you in those Twitter spaces last year and the year before when I was doing them, that love your friends and family from a distance and keep your business out of their attention. Don't tell them what you're doing. Let them recognize what you're doing because your lifestyle has changed. Telling people that you're going to be successful trading, you're going to make lots of money, all you have done now is given them the fuel and the ammo to shoot you in your face and tell you, I told you you weren't going to be able to do that. Versus if you just keep it to yourself, you're not elevating the risks. You're not making it more complicated. You're not making it more emotional. You're not making it harder for yourself to live up to expectations that are outside of your own. And as soon as you invite other people to give you their opinion, you're now trying to appease what they think. And they don't even know what a chart's telling them, but they're going to have an opinion about trading. Nobody makes money in trading. Well, it's hard for people to make money when it's like that. When you're complicating it with all these emotional, psychological barriers that you're going to place up inside your mind. And it's a normal thing. It's more prevalent than you realize. Most people are really good at hiding it. They're ashamed of it. They think they're not a man. They think they're not mentally fit. When it's just you keeping yourself in a very stressful environment and not identifying the exits. You choose to stay there. You're in a cell in a prison, but the cell door's open and you can leave anytime you want, but you're making your bed there. You're staying there because you feel more comfortable in that pain than the pain you think is going to happen because other people will be able to say, I told you couldn't do it. So you're going to keep doing all these things, making decisions on things that are not rooted in sound logic because you want to be able to say, I did it my way. And that way wasn't even scientifically laid out as a process. This is what I'm going to do when I do this. If I have a losing trade, then I'm going to react this way. I'm not going to trade. I'm not going to look at the charts. I'm going to go back in. I'm going to same model tomorrow when I find a setup. If the setup's there, I'm going to execute on it. I'm not going to increase my risk. I'm not going to trade more contracts. And once I get my win for the day, I'm done. I'm turning my charts off. I have to control myself. You have to think this way and live it. Stay in a rule-based mindset. If you do, you're going to have a whole lot less anxiety. You'll still feel stress. I mean, stress is normal. Stress is a proof that you're living. Your heart speeds up a little bit. Guess what? That's good. You're excited. That's not fear. You're excited because you're following your model and you're doing everything right. See what I just did there? When I was 20, oh shit. I wish this thing would start moving faster. I haven't overcome the commission cost yet. My commission cost back then was $100 for one contract. Think about that now. You guys are complaining and saying, oh man, commission costs suck. I was paying $100. That's what everything cost back then. It wasn't until Lynn Waldock and other brokers that came out and they had discount brokerage firm fees, $35 round turn. But even that, $35 per contract is still exorbitant compared to today. So you're paying, when you're doing a 25 lot trade, you're paying a lot of money and you're not guaranteed to even overcome the spread and the commission. You want to talk about stress? That's stressful. But if you have a process that you're following and you've already identified what you are going to think in certain conditions, when the market does what you thought it was going to be, how do you feel? Do you feel like you want to go on social media and parade it around? You have insecurity issues. You need to be validated. Well, you're going to do a whole lot of things in your trading to seek that versus following a model that makes money and controlling risk. You'll be more likely to take big impulsive trades over leveraged just to impress. Because as soon as you start that problem, that mistake of taking your wins and your results that made money and you show it on social media, you throw it out there in the ether and you're waiting for the confirmation from the sky above, you are the chosen one. You are the one we've all been waiting for. We're all going to follow in a single file line behind you and bow down and worship and kiss your ass. That's what you really want. And when they don't do it enough for you, you're going to have to think, well, I got to over leverage because the last time I made a $500 win, nobody really gave two shits about it. So I have to now do something to make over $1,000. So what are you going to do? What needs to change? Your leverage. In your eyes, that's what you think needs to change. But I'm telling you, that doesn't need to happen. Because if you make the same trade tomorrow using your model and all you make is $475, you made $475. That's a win. You closed the charts and you got more experience and you've managed yourself. You've controlled that impulsive nature, that intrusive thought about, I want to do more so I can impress other people that you don't really care about. You just want them to tell you you're better than you really are. You want some person to lie to you with a limited perspective of what you've given them. They only can see what you've just shown them, but you've not been fully transparent and said that you were terrified while you were taking that trade. You see where this is a problem? And then take a step back and think about everybody you talk to on social media, how this is actually happening behind the scenes, and you probably never thought about it, and how you're doing it too. And now they're all thinking the same thing about you. And you wonder why I'm laughing at all of you. Because I did that same stuff. And you think that this is what you're supposed to do, and it's not. Women aren't doing that. Women are not doing that. But all of you men are. All of you are. It's a measuring competition. Now, I'm not impressed by showing me one trade or one broker statement where you did something where you made a little bit of money. I'm more impressed when I see someone that's making it available to other people when they live stream. They let it all hang out. Come hell or high water, it's a good day or it's a bad day, they're just out there doing it. That doesn't mean I agree with their trading method. There isn't anybody out there that's trading on the live stream that I agree with any of their methodology. But I'm impressed with their ability to put themselves out there in that fishbowl for other people to watch. And it's a wonderful opportunity to study human psychology, both in their audience and how they think about price and how they worship or troll the results of these people. But also when they show their face, look at their face, read their face. Are they able to stare at the chart? How often are they looking away from the charts? That's them hiding. It's called point of indication. In magic, I mentioned this in Friday. I know I'm going on and on and on, but I promise I'll say this and I'm stopping. In magic, when you do a trick as a performer, magicians that are not refined, they will close their eyes at the moment a sleight of hand is being done. Because what they're doing is they're closing their eyes because they don't want to see themselves flash. In magic, it's called, like if you have a coin or a card in your hand, you're trying to make it appear to the spectator, it's vanishing. You're actually hiding it and copying it in a certain handheld. But because they know that they're not really good enough to be doing what they're doing, they will close their eyes at the very moment a sleight of hand is being done. So when I studied under Jeff McBride, he's one of the best today card manipulators. And he taught on this principle. And it made very, very good sense to me as someone that was an educator. I was like, you know what? That's not just happening in magic. It happens in everything. And it's a tell. So if you aren't careful, you're going to ignore these point of indications in your character. And you'll put band-aids on them. You'll close your eyes to the things you're doing wrong. Never sharing it with the public, but the public that can see you doing them, like for instance, when a live streamer is in a trade. They didn't say they bought it or sold it yet, but all of a sudden they were talking, real talkative, and they get real quiet. And they're not looking at the charts a lot. They'll look down, they'll bite their fingernail, they'll look at the car behind themselves, think they probably paid too much money for it. How many people care about that car anymore? Or they'll look at another chart, or they'll start nodding their head to a song they're listening to, or even worse, listen. Because some of them are basically eating their microphone. Their breath will become erratic. Okay, it's getting real annoying here. they're indicating to you. That's point of indication. That's them not comfortable in the trade, not trusting the logic. They're just hoping it's going to pan out for them. You need to do, and I'm not trolling anybody by doing this. I'm telling you, that's why I appreciate, and I have a great deal of respect for everyone that live streams, and especially the ones that show their face, because they're literally laying themselves out there to be analyzed, seriously analyzed with psychology and humanistic characteristics that are going to manifest themselves in what they're doing. You need to do the same thing while you're learning how to read price action, because you don't understand the magnitude and the depth and the impact that these things that you're trying to mask and hide in yourself. If you don't recognize what those things are, those being what makes you feel overconfident, what triggers that? What made you feel so overconfident that you're now going to trade maximum leverage? What was it? I guarantee you it's something you're trying to get as a result that is external to trading and external to the market you're trying to trade. You're trying to cope and compensate for something. Someone made you mad, someone hurt your feelings, you're in a relationship that maybe you're arguing with them and you feel like, you know what, I gotta make myself a lot of money today because that way I know I don't have to be codependent with them. That sometimes, ladies, you're not on the straight and narrow entirely. The thing I see in the women traders is that they will quietly over leverage their account when they're in relationships that they're in codependency with. That means the man makes the money and they're home and they're housewives. They take care of the children or they homeschool the children. The characteristics and traits and trends that I've seen in my students are the ones that the females are like that. If they're in an abusive relationship, they will over leverage sometimes, and they use this for the ones, and I'm thankful, and I'm never saying your name, so please, if you know who I'm talking about, you're not the only one. I've a dozen of the women in my community that have been honest with me and told me these things. And I hope you can appreciate me sharing this in a context that it doesn't out them. But I want you to understand that women will over leverage when they're in those conditions. And why? It's not for greed's sake. They're not trying to take it to social media. They're doing the opposite. They're hiding it from their spouse because they don't want them to know that they're building up enough money to leave that toxic relationship because they don't have the resources to do it right now. So they're quietly doing it. And then when they get abused physically or verbally, they end up taking larger trades because they want to reassure themselves that I am in a position that I can replace him. He's toxic. He's not good for my children. He's not good for me. We can't resolve this, but I can't leave. I can't escape this right now. I have no family members, no friends that I can lean on. So I'm by myself. So I'm going to do something that I know I shouldn't do, but I'm at my wit's end. So I'm going to over leverage. You need to recognize that. Because that is not an invitation for a faster exit. That's you doing something incorrectly, and that's not making you a good trader. If you get rewarded with a big win, you're going to feel more inclined to do it again the next time he hits you, the next time he talks down to you, the next time he abuses the kids, the next time you feel like you should be out of that relationship and you can't stand it anymore. You just want to jump out of your own skin. Those are those triggering moments. Those are the triggering moments. And you have to recognize that in yourself. So that way, when you start feeling that impulsive nature start rising up in you and you're trading with real money, turn the charts off, go do something else. Go exercise, go run, go read a book, go hang out with friends. Go meet someone. Hey, you got time to meet me for lunch? Take yourself away from the marketplace. I'm telling you, this is the real reality of how you're going to have to deal with this stuff. It's not just going in every day, finding a setup and making money. That's not how this is at all. There's so many things that you're going to have to wrestle with, and you don't even realize what they are. And 99% of them are in your head or in your personal life. They're either physical things that you're coping with in a relationship or a lack of a relationship. And you're lonely and you have somebody that you're interested in, man. You want to get her attention. You want to drive up in a nice car. And you're thinking, all I got to do is split my account this many times, have 20 accounts linked together, and I can get $100,000 in the next couple months if I just do this, build my account up. And then I can go and get a Lamborghini leased. I only got to pay $3,700 a month. I can make that. It's easy. And you're going to do stupid stuff to try to win the attention of some person you don't even know. You don't know what they're going to do when they find out that you drive that Lamborghini. You're doing all the wrong things. And I did all the wrong things as a 20-year-old. And I'm telling you, as a 50-year-old, I can tell you that I wish I could go back in time and talk to myself. I did a series in this YouTube channel. Literally, if I could go back and tell myself these things. And everything I'm talking about in there, look at every influencer today. It flies in the face of everything they do because it's all about engagements, getting you worked up into a frenzy about trading, pushing buttons and making money. And nobody's talking about the realities of what you're going to feel while trying to learn how to do that. And what happens when you get into a winning trade? None of you have any coping skills for that. You think you've ever felt excited and like short of breath because you're losing money? When you have a really big, fast running winner, it's worse. It's worse than losing money. Your very first winning trade that's large and that you didn't have a limit order to get it out at, and it's just running for you, it's impossible for me to outline and explain what it feels like. It is a terrible feeling because you don't know what to do. If you get out, what if it kept running? What if I stay in and it goes and reverses as fast as it ran in my favor and it becomes hugely lost? You have no idea what you're going to feel, which is why I teach you have partials, have limit orders, because it prepares you for that inevitable moment when you have your first runner that you didn't have a limit order on. It keeps you from ever having that fearful moment. Everything I teach is sound logic. It's rooted on real world experience. How I hurt myself, how I built myself back from it, how I learned from mistakes that you don't need to make for yourself. You don't need to do these things, Caleb. You don't need to go through all these painful lessons. You don't need that. You can do it far faster than I did. You can be so much better than me because I have scar tissue that every single time I get into a trade, I have dozens of other instances where I remember taking a trade in copper, and I was like, I ought to get in here and do something different because I felt like this the last time. And I got to tell myself, what does the model say? I'm supposed to be trading price action. I'm supposed to be trading the model, not, I remember the last time I hurt myself 25 years ago. I've done it a lot when I was younger. And those scar tissue, it's like a bad relationship. You punish the people that you're in a relationship with now for the things that they did to you. But they didn't do anything to you. But you're punishing that person. You're punishing them for the things in the scar tissue that you've carried into a previous relationship. That's the same thing that trading is going to do. You don't even see it. You don't even think about it. You don't even think about those things. Because these 20-year-old chairmen of multi-level marketing don't know how to trade, can't make any money. They're out there trying to tell you how to be an enterprise by doing market level marketing, not trading. Getting people to be a sucker to buy in behind you. I don't do those things. I'm telling you in a manner that is not sugar-coated at all. And it's uncomfortable. These lectures are not comfortable. They don't make you feel good, but they make you take personal inventory. And a lot of people are going to, I don't know, I don't even want to look at it. I'll look at it when I'm done. I'll look at the analytics and see what the watch numbers are on it. But I told you last week I expect them to be low. It doesn't change the fact that I'm telling my son these things this week. He needs to know these things. So that way it calibrates his mindset and says, you know what? I don't need to impress Dad by doing this. I am going to follow a model. And by default, Dad will be pleased that I'm only doing what is expected of me. I'm not trying to present more evidence that I have learned more than I should have right now because Dad's not expecting me to have that. And it's liberating. Contrast that with go. Get out there and start trading. Start with a real account, couple $100. You'll learn how to trade when you do that. That's an idiot's mentality. I promise you, that's the same person they're afraid to take trades. Every single trade they take, they're fearful of it. They're fearful of taking trades like that. And they can lie all they want. Come out here and let's see it. They won't do it. Oh, you're a demo builder. They'll just cop out doing it that way. But I'm telling you the real stuff. This is the real things that matter most, because this is the stuff that's going to allow you to be successful, or it's going to make you tap out. You're going to do something that causes you to blow out, and you won't want to do whatever it takes you to refund an account or take a week or two off and then go back in and do another funded account challenge. If that's what you want to do. I'm not saying that's what you should do, but you have to give yourself flexibility and time. And how much time is it going to take for you? I don't know how much baggage you have. How much baggage have you brought into this? How much are you hiding? To your friends and your family, they may never know the depths of the anxiety and depression you're wrestling with because you got real good at hiding it. But you won't be able to hide it in trading. I promise you, it is like a scrying mirror. Okay, a scrying mirror is a bowl that's painted black, and people used to stare into it and meditate, and sometimes they would see visions about what it is they feel they should be doing or whatever. But it is a scrying mirror. It will show you the ugliest parts of you, and you will not be able to mask it. You will not be able to hide it. It will manifest itself in stunning fashion. You're impulsive, greedy. Well, guess what? You're going to blow your account in stunning fashion in such amazing speed. It's going to happen so fast your head's going to spin. And you're going to act like you're surprised. Wow. How did this happen so quick? And I'm telling you why. I'm telling you why. The things that you hold inside that are repeating toxic things that make you less of a success than you would be if you overcome them. But you can't overcome them until you recognize them, right? And everybody wants to stay comfortably hiding. They don't want the friends and family, they don't want the social media people to know that, hey, maybe I'm not entirely perfect when we walk around pretending that we are. Social media is a wonderful opportunity for everybody to pretend there's nothing wrong with them. They do everything right. I don't hide that. That's why I'm very polarizing. People say, wow, you're bipolar. You know, you start ranting and cussing. You know, I'm a Christian. You say you're a Christian and you talk in that language. Let me tell you something. Let me spend 1 week with you and I'll show you how you're a Christian too, right? You're never walking on water, okay? Everybody makes mistakes and I repent for everything I do. I don't claim to be perfect, but I'm not going to get out here and pretend that I don't have these real experiences that I had to go through and the coping mechanisms that I had to go through to fix them. But I had to identify that I had them. And I hid them for a long time because I built myself up in front of my family, in front of my friends, and they all said that this was never going to manifest itself and be successful. I would never know how to be able to beat the markets. They said it's never going to happen. Nobody can beat the market. Nobody can. Nobody knows how to time the market. That was constantly said on CNBC and FNN back then, before it was CNBC. Nobody can time the market. And they still try to say it. Nobody can time the market. Well, you know better than that now. But you can't time the market until you learn how to do it. And you won't learn how to do it properly until you remove these big barriers. They're like rocks in your shoe. And you might think that, oh, it's not a big deal. You know, I'm going to keep doing this. But if you try to run before you get that rock out, you're not going to run as long and without pain. And you won't fatigue as soon as you would if you had a rock in your shoe. Think about it. If you had a rock in your shoe and you're expected to run 10 miles or even walk it, as a younger man, I used to be frustrated. I would get a rock in my shoe. And I'd like, I ain't stopping, untying my shoe, taking my shoe off to get this rock out, and then have to put the shoe back on. I have to tie the whole time. That's aggravating. That's a man. I'm not going to pull over and ask for directions. I'm going to figure it out and waste the gas tank. That's what men do. What does the woman want to do? Well, let's pull over and ask this person. No, I ain't doing that. What are you doing? They're going to think I'm stupid if I ask for directions. She's not thinking that they're going to think that she's stupid. She's thinking, I need to get somewhere. I have a process. I'm getting somewhere with the most efficient direction and pathway. There it is. I don't want to be in this car with you. That's what she's thinking. But the husband's like, I don't want to look stupid to that other man. And that's what trading is. You don't want to make mistakes because you think everybody's sitting in your trading room with you, seeing everything you're doing while you're in every fluctuation of that trade. And you're making your trade harder because you think that way. Think about it. It's funny, but it's also uncomfortable, isn't it? You were laughing at first, but you start thinking, shit, he just nailed me. He literally just nailed me through a wall. That's me. He's talking about me right now. I'm talking about me. You just resonate with it because you're like, I'm doing that same stuff. I did all that stuff too. I did all that stuff too. But there's a way to get past all that. But you got to make changes. And you have to identify what they are, and you have to take advantage of this time in your development. This stage in your development, this is the most critical time. This is the foundation. Everything is going to be built upon. If you rush it, you will only go so far. You might be able to make some money, but you're not retiring. You're not living on your trading. I guarantee you that's not going to happen. Nobody lives on their trading and makes a huge enterprise out of their success in trading when they have not overcome these demons. You need to recognize what they are. Some of you are going to have all of the box checked. Anxious, fearful, impatient, just everything, greed. You'll have every box checked. But there's a coping mechanism I'm going to teach you this week that overcomes all of them. And I'm not talking about going into the Bible, but that's the best one, really. But that's all I'm going to say on that. I had to slide that in there, okay? But there are physical things that you can do. Anxiety attacks. I'm going to teach you how to overcome an anxiety attack, how to prevent one. I'm going to teach you how to fix heart palpitations when you start having, rapid heartbeats when you're trading. I'm going to tell you how to fix all that stuff. But when you start feeling those physical symptoms, if you're any bit of a hypochondriac, it'll scare you. And then it revs up into full panic. In full panic, you're not in control of yourself. So you never want to be in full panic when you're in a trade because you won't know when to pull the plug. You won't know when to get out of the trade. You won't see it. Everything is moving so fast. Your brain's processing so fast because you're in fight or flight. And you will have a clouded mind because everything is standing still. You're not doing anything. But your brain's saying, we're going 100 miles an hour and we have something to do. What is it we want me to do? I'm ready. I have the adrenaline. I'm ready. We got to run. I'm ready. If we have to fight, I'm ready. But you're standing still. And if you're standing still, you're going to feel the physical effects of adrenaline being in your body, which is going to increase your heart rate. And you're not doing anything to burn the adrenaline off. And then you start feeling cortisol. And cortisol is your stress hormone. And you will literally start feeling things that are uncomfortable if you've never felt them before. Tingling in spots on your face. When I would have it, it would be in my left eyebrow. My left eyebrow would start tingling and it would drift underneath my left eye and go into where my left nostril was. And I'm thinking, I'm having a stroke. I'm stroking out. And then I started thinking that and thinking, I am stroking out. Let me check my pulse. Well, now you're doing the wrong thing. Look for other symptoms, Michael. Well, of course, my heart rate's over 150 beats a minute. I'm tacking like crazy. And what does that do? Speeds it up even more. And then 10 minutes later, paramedics are at my house telling me, bear down, or I'm going to have to give you something to stop you because your heart rate's 220 beats a minute. Do you want to go through these experiences? Or do you want to listen to me? Because given enough opportunity, some of you will go through that or worse. If you're not healthy, if I was not healthy going through all that stuff, I probably would have had a heart attack. I probably would have had a real stroke. Even if you're healthy, if you keep putting yourself in that condition, you wear your arteries down. And that stress hormone, cortisol, the way your body fights that is it lays down cholesterol in your arteries. What is that going to do? It's going to further increase the likelihood that you're going to eventually pop. So it's important for you to make this boring. You do not want it. I'm on a boat, T-Pain in the background. It ain't about all that, okay? It's about I am following a boring model. And that boring model can make as much as I want it to. And I don't have to elevate the excitement or fear. Let the money management do the heavy lifting. But